Chapter 893. A Genius Remembering Love in 1 Second? Here's a fascinating novel for you to read. C_T. Chapter 896, Shadow City. Following this, Qin Nan took the portal of the middle sector city. Instead of heading straight to Shadow City, he arrived at a dojo 10 li away from the city. Access. F***Kmi. The two hounds raised their heads and felt their legs trembling, completely losing their previous smug look. Qin Nan's eyes flickered with astonishment too. A huge pitch-black city could be seen lying on the ground. At the center of the city was a huge pillar that soared into the sky and pierced into the clouds. The tip of the pillar was emitting countless rays of light that shrouded the entire city. The clouds above the city transformed into a giant figure as if they were under some kind of influence, like a guardian deity. No wonder the two hounds were dumbfounded seeing this. How impressive of this shadow city, using the strange pillar to communicate with the heavens and earth, allowing the area within 100 li to become a part of it. If an expert like Emperor Wu were to attack it, it would be the same as attacking the heavens and earth. The astonishment in Qin Nan's eyes grew thicker. This shadow city was only a monarch weapon, which was nothing significant compared to the factions of the middle continent. On the other hand, the person who built Shadow City could be described as the work of the god. Let's go in and take a look. With a flicker, Qin Nan led the two hounds and one mouse forward and soon arrived at the entrance of the city. Hold it right there. The two guards with a cultivation of the 4th layer martial ancestor glanced at Qin Nan and said expressionlessly, "Show us the location of your sect, your identity in the sect, and your ranking on the monarch ranking." Qin Nan raised his eyebrows. He did not expect there to be a lot of checks in Shadow City. "I'm Qin Nan, Dragon Emperor Court, Peak Leader of the Human Peak, 2001st on the monarch ranking," Qin Nan calmly said. "Peak Leader of the Human Peak?" The eyes of the two guards flickered with astonishment, before they calmed down as a thought crossed their minds. "Here's your badge, which is green among red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and purple. It's your identity on the 4th layer of the Shadow Pagoda. You'll have a 20% discount on all transactions in Shadow City. You're also under the protection of Shadow City, thus no one is allowed to harm you." Qin Nan was startled, before his eyes flickered with astonishment as he received the badge. This Shadow City was quite interesting, to be able to categorize the participants into different levels. However, Qin Nan did not overthink it. He received the badge and entered Shadow City. As soon as he entered the city, he could hear voices could be heard Qin Nan's. "Come, come, come. Who wants a heaven-defying, fate-changing map? Map bet. Quick, person here. Who's a hero disciple is? News. This information is related to a heaven-defying opportunity to change one's fate. Those who trust me, come here quickly. Those who don't disturb me." A forbidden scroll related to the Dragon Sea mountain range. It's not open yet, the Shadow Pagoda is here to appraise it, the highest bidder wins. Countless hawkers surrounded the streets, shouting with all their might. Experts from various factions or those with extraordinary cultivations were shuttling through the streets. This was Shadow City, a place that gathered all the information of the Middle Continent, a faction that always maintained fairness among the two-starred factions. A map that can alter one's destiny, a fortunate encounter that can alter one's destiny, interesting indeed. However, it seems like the people here are no ordinary people. Qin Nan mumbled to himself as he glanced at his surroundings. There were fewer people in Shadow City than he had imagined, but most of them possessed a certain level of cultivation. With a quick glance, he had discovered at least 5 peak martial progenitor realm experts on the street. How significant was that? The entire Shadow City consisted of a few hundred streets, not including the Shadow Pagoda. The two hounds became quiet and lowered their heads, not daring to make any noise. They followed closely behind Qin Nan. Even the lazy heavenly fortune mouse wore a stern expression as it scanned its surroundings, as if it was thinking of something. After all, this was Shadow City, not the Dragon Emperor Court. Let's head to the Shadow Pagoda first. Qin Nan inspected the green badge with his divine sense. A map appeared in front of him, including the forbidden areas of Shadow City. It's in that direction. Qin Nan took a quick glance and put the badge away. He proceeded forward after coming up with a rough idea of the situation. However, at that instant, Qin Nan's footsteps came to a halt as his eyes glistened. He could only see a chubby hand reaching out from the side and grabbing Qin Nan's arm. Following this, a mysterious voice echoed in Qin Nan's mind. "Brother, I've got something interesting. Let me show it to you. I guarantee that you won't regret it." For some reason, even though the voice was not using any monarch art, there was a magical effect to it, allowing it to penetrate one's heart. Qin Nan raised his eyebrows and turned his head around. He immediately saw a fatty wearing a golden robe with an oily face and squinted eyes. This fatty seemed to be hiding some shocking secret. His expression was slightly nervous, as if he was afraid of being noticed by others. Qin Nan's lips twisted slightly. He did not expect to stumble into Sima Kong here. The others might not be able to tell, but his left eye of the divine god of battle was able to. What the F******K? Qin Nan? Why are you here? Why are you here? Sima Kong's eyes widened when he saw Qin Nan. His face was filled with disbelief. Many nearby were attracted by his scream. "I'm now the peak leader of the human peak. I'm here on behalf of the Dragon Emperor Court to kill you." Qin Nan wore a cold expression, as if he was not bothered at all. "Humph, trying to trick me with such poor acting skills?" Sima Kong's face was filled with excitement as he spoke. "Damn, you're doing pretty well these days. You've even become the peak leader of the human peak. Tell me, what are you planning to do here? Destroy the Shadow Pagoda? Or rob the Shadow Pagoda? What are you talking about? Why don't you try destroying the Shadow Pagoda?" Qin Nan snapped. Luckily, the man was transmitting his voice. Otherwise, Qin Nan would have given him a tight slap across the face. "I don't care, you have to tell me the truth. Every time you do something, it's always shocking. I don't believe you're fine." Sima Kong showed a look of disbelief. In his memory, Qin Nan had eliminated the Skyhowl White Tiger the first time he attacked. The second time, they had robbed the Trading Alliance. The third time, they had destroyed the Dao-Seeking Mountain. The fourth time, they had destroyed the Mu clan. Since when had they been simple? Alright, let's be serious. I'm here to gather some information. Qin Nan wore a grin as he threw a punch at Sima Kong's chest. "Look at you, what did you do a while ago? Even the Dragon Emperor Court is trying to hunt you down. What do you mean by stealing chickens and groping dogs? I'm the successor of the Emperor of Thieves. Do you know what that means?" Sima Kong's eyes glistened as a sudden thought crossed his mind. "Qin Nan, cut the crap. I'll bring you to a place. You can use your eye technique again." "Eye technique?" Qin Nan was startled. Could it be that the Shadow Pagoda had something similar to the Street of Looting Gold? Hey, you, what are you standing there for? Can't you see my young master is here? Piss off." At that instant, a displeased voice could be heard. Qin Nan turned around and saw a young man staring at him with his eyes wide open. Behind the young man stood another young man with a scar on his forehead, who glanced at his surroundings, as if he was not bothered by it at all. The so-called young master possessed a third-grade Tian-ranked martial spirit, while the young man had a first-grade Tian-ranked martial spirit, whose cultivation had reached the third-layer martial ancestor realm. The young master also had a few monarch weapons on him, thus he must have a formidable background. Qin Nan was about to speak when Sima Kong straightened his face and unleashed an imperious aura. "Who are you talking about? Open your eyes wide and see what this is." Sima Kong reached out his chubby hand and took out a badge. "This is..." The young man who had been overbearing a moment ago immediately widened his eyes. The pupils of the scarred young master also shrank. Even Qin Nan was startled. Chapter 894. A Genius Remembering Love in 1 Second? Here's an interesting novel for you to read. C_T. Chapter 897. The four-sided serene heavenly pillar. As everyone knew, the badges of Shadow City were categorized into 7 different grades, which were red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and purple. Only a handful of people in the entire Middle Continent were able to acquire a purple badge. Quick update: the website is refreshing with few advertisements. I love this kind of website. Please leave a good review. For more information, please visit www. They were either top geniuses or had formidable backgrounds, such as Emperor Wu's son, the Patriarch's son, etc. This fatty was an unknown person, thus he was most likely not a top genius on the monarch ranking, but someone with a formidable background. This big brother. We are really sorry just now, please forgive us. That young man was so scared that his soul almost left his body. He even started to stutter when he spoke. Young Master Scarface's forehead was covered in cold sweat too. Piss off, watch where you're going next time. Sima Kong wore an indifferent expression as he waved his fleshy hand in an imperious manner. The two immediately left the place as if they had just been pardoned, and soon disappeared from the street. It was highly possible that after this incident, this pair of master and servant would not dare to act recklessly in Shadow City. Fatty, let me ask you, where did you steal the purple badge? Qin Nan immediately transmitted his voice to Sima Kong. What do you mean steal? I'm a thief, the successor of the Emperor of Thieves, a thief with principles. Sima Kong rolled his eyes before he said proudly, I'm not trying to brag, but apart from fighting, is there anything I can't do in this world? I'm the one who forged the purple badge, and the Shadow Pagoda couldn't even find out the truth. Forged? Qin Nan was startled before he exclaimed. He could not help but admit that Sima Kong was quite impressive when it came to other things. Here, I sold one last time, so there's still one left. You can take it. It belongs to an expert of the Emperor Wu, who lives in seclusion in the mountains. His name is Wang Liang, and this purple token represents his successor. Sima Kong took out a purple order and handed it to Qin Nan. Qin Nan immediately received the purple badge. With this purple badge, he might be able to use it in Shadow City. Aya, now's the right time. Sima Kong glanced around and transmitted his voice. Qin Nan, you know the map that changes fate, right? You should know about map gambling, right? There are many places in Shadow City where map betting is possible. I believe that with your eye technique and my means, we should be able to win the bet. Qin Nan frowned. He had read about map gambling from the all-knowing scroll of the Middle Continent. It was a map specifically used to gamble on destiny-altering maps. One had to know that a map that defied the heavens and changed one's fate, before one went to the place indicated on the map. No one knew what kind of dangers there would be or what kind of fortuitous encounters there would be. As such, some people would collect maps in bulk and sell them at the same price. Once a cultivator bought a map, there were 2 ways to verify it. The first way was to check it out in person. The second way was to drip a drop of the blue godly liquid on the map. The brighter the glow, the stronger the drop, the better the fortunate encounter it contained. That being said, the blue godly liquid only had a 30% success rate, and most cultivators would not choose the blue godly liquid, as it would attract the attention of many cultivators. My eye technique is called insight, but it doesn't seem to have much to do with map gambling. Qin Nan said after a slight ponder. That's what you don't understand. Why would a rare treasure like the blue godly liquid have a 30% success rate, and why would it reveal the fortunate encounter of a map? It's because any map that contains destiny-altering fortunate encounters would be stained with the karma of the heavens and earth. The stronger the fortunate encounter, the stronger the karma. Sima Kong let out a laugh before his eyes flickered as he said, I have something that will allow your eye technique to observe the karma of the heavens and earth. That being said, it's only possible if your eyes are strong enough. Otherwise, you will be completely blind. This was the reason why Sima Kong had to ask Qin Nan for help. The reason being that only Qin Nan's eyes met his requirement. Qin Nan glanced at Sima Kong in astonishment. He did not expect this guy to have such a forbidden technique. Let's put the map gambling aside for now. Qin Nan pondered for a moment before saying, I'm here mainly to collect some important information from the Shadow Pagoda. Map gambling would only earn him monarch crystals. Besides, the fatty's trick would be limited in some way, thus it would not be that outstanding. For Qin Nan, it was more important to accumulate the force of the heavens and earth. Looking for information? Sima Kong pondered for a while before saying, the information of the Shadow Pagoda is quite unique. You won't be able to find it just by spending monarch crystals. You'll have to be acknowledged by them first. Besides, it doesn't matter how formidable your background is. It all depends on your capabilities. Come, let's head to the Shadow Pagoda first. Sure. Qin Nan nodded. He was familiar with the rules of the Shadow Pagoda. He would have to observe it on the spot to see how it worked. The two of them quickly made their way to the center of the city. Before long, they arrived at the towering black pillar that rose from the ground of Shadow City. This is... Qin Nan's eyes glistened. As he stood in front of the black pillar, for some reason, he could feel a formless energy being emitted from it. It was as if chains had wrapped around his entire body. Qin Nan, this is the four-sided giant heavenly pillar, one of the two cornerstone artifacts of the Shadow Pagoda. It has surpassed the level of a monarch weapon, and has reached the level of a half-godly weapon. Sima Kong stared at the giant black pillar with flames burning in his eyes. With this pillar, it's impossible for Emperor Wu experts to force their way in. The four-sided giant heavenly pillar, huh? Qin Nan mumbled to himself before taking a deep breath and encapsulating his body with the force of the martial ancestor. He felt uneasy as the force of the rare artifact encapsulated his body. After getting rid of the strange feeling, the two followed the crystal path and entered the first floor of the four-sided giant heavenly pillar. It was rare to see cultivators outside the giant heavenly pillar, but as soon as they entered the first floor, they could hear a great commotion. What's going on? Why isn't the information here yet? I've been queuing here for 3 hours. Is it really that difficult to gather information? It's not like I'm not paying you. Ask your elders to come out. This is ridiculous. Damn it, it's the same thing again. Almost all of these voices were cursing and swearing. Besides, Qin Nan could tell that most of the cultivators in the hall were in the martial ancestor realm. Only the disciples of the Shadow Pagoda were in the martial sacred realm. The Shadow Pagoda is such a weird place. It doesn't matter how rich you are, or how strong your cultivation is, as long as you're not acknowledged by them, it's all for nothing. Sima Kong's eyes flickered as he glanced at the cursing cultivators. Selling information was indeed a great way to earn money. Wouldn't he be rich if he managed to steal the all-knowing orb from the Shadow Pagoda? Hello, is there anything I can help you with? Chapter 895. Genius 1 Second. Remember love divided by little? Here's a great novel for you to read. C_T. Chapter 898. Threatening me, we are here to take part in the intelligence gathering trial. A love go little say, W. Chu. For more information, visit www. Sima Kong said lightly. The so-called intelligence assessment meant that after passing the assessment, one would obtain certain privileges. When obtaining information from the Shadow Pagoda, the price would be lower, the speed would be faster, and the information would be more accurate and complete. The cultivators on the first floor had yet to pass the trial, thus they could only wait patiently. I see. The disciple of the Shadow Pagoda said in a humble tone, the intelligence-gathering trial is held once every 3 days, and there are only 20 participants each time. You've come at the right time, as there are already 13 cultivators waiting there. It won't be long until there are 20 participants. Bring us there. Sima Kong nodded his head and unintentionally revealed the purple token at his waist. He said, "This is the first time we've come to participate in this so-called intelligence assessment of yours. Explain the rules clearly to us." To his surprise, the disciple of the Shadow Pagoda ignored him and explained, "The rules are simple. Among the 20 participants, only the one with the best results will be given a special badge." Only one? Qin Nan raised his eyebrows. The trial was held once every 3 days, and only one of the 20 participants would be given a special badge. It seemed like the special badge was extremely precious. On second thought, there were too many cultivators in the Middle Continent. If the Shadow Pagoda were to give out the special badges everywhere, the place would be in chaos by now. Under the guidance of the disciple, Qin Nan and Qin Nan arrived at a side hall on the first floor. Reading the article, although there were 13 cultivators inside the hall, it was extremely quiet. Even the sound of their breathing was extremely soft. It was as if the entire atmosphere had been tightened. As soon as the two of them entered, the 13 gazes landed on them like sharp swords. They quickly scanned the two of them as if they were trying to see through them. In the next breath, the expressions of the 13 people changed slightly. This was because they couldn't see through Qin Nan's aura. Impressive. Disciples of the Bodhi Temple, Misty Illusory Manor, Chaos Sect, Dark Feather Palace. Qin Nan's eyes revealed a hint of amazement. Other than one person, the rest of the 13 people were all disciples of 2-star forces. Furthermore, 4 of them had 3rd-grade Tian-ranked martial spirits, while the rest had 2nd-grade Tian-ranked martial spirit. In terms of cultivation, one of them had reached the 7th-layer martial ancestor, while the rest were around the 3rd-layer martial ancestor. This scale was already quite impressive. "Please wait here. When everyone is here, an examiner will come in." The Shadow Pagoda disciple bowed and left quietly. "Motherf *Ker, are they all nuts? Why do they have to stare at me?" Sima Kong mumbled. He felt uncomfortable being stared at by those eyes. Qin Nan rolled his eyes at him. He was too lazy to say anything. His mind entered a meditative state as he took a deep breath. He had no idea what the trial was about. If it was a duel, he would be at a disadvantage, as he could not afford to reveal his trump cards, thus he would not stand a chance against the 7th-layer martial ancestor. Therefore, he had to recuperate his mind and raise his spirit to the peak. Following this, 3 more cultivators entered the place, who were also from 2-starred factions. Furthermore, they all possessed 3rd-grade Tian-ranked martial spirits, resulting in powerful auras. As a result, the atmosphere in the hall became even more oppressive, as if a battle would break out at any second. At that instant, a voice could be heard coming from a distance away. "Ha ha ha, Brother Duanren, you've come at the right time. We were just missing 2 of us. It seems like we're quite fated with the Shadow Pagoda." "You're right, Brother Ren." Following this, 2 figures appeared before the crowd, causing Qin Nan to raise his head. The one leading the way was an elegant young man wearing a purple golden dragon crown and a crimson golden robe. A mystical glow was emitted from his figure, together with a faint monarch aura. Although his cultivation was ordinary, it was obvious that he had no ordinary background judging from his aura. Behind the young man stood a white-robed man carrying an ancient saber. His eyes were icy as he emitted an imperious aura. A disciple of the Heaven Saber sect? A 4th-grade Tian-ranked martial spirit? 5th-layer martial ancestors cultivation? TSK. This guy is most likely ranked quite high on the monarch ranking. Qin Nan exclaimed in his heart. As for the geniuses in the hall, their expressions changed tremendously as they clenched their fists tightly. It was obvious that they had sensed the strength of the white-robed man, thus he was their only enemy. Everyone, please wait here. The examiner will be here soon. The Shadow Pagoda's disciple left after finishing his sentence. To everyone's surprise, the handsome young man suddenly stomped the ground and landed in front of them with a loud bang. Qin Nan, Sima Kong, and the others frowned. What was this guy trying to do? Everyone, let's skip the nonsense and introduce ourselves. I'm the son of the fourth elder of the Shadow Pagoda, Rin Fei. As soon as the elegant young man spoke, the crowd immediately wore shocked expressions on their faces. This young man was the son of the fourth elder of the Shadow Pagoda? Perhaps his identity was not considered a top cultivator in the Middle Continent, but it was extremely powerful here at the Shadow Pagoda. However, what was this Rin Fei trying to do? Rin Fei scanned the crowd's faces and said in a prideful tone, "This person beside me is my brother, Duan Rin, from the Heaven Saber sect, ranked 897th on the Monarch ranking, 4th grade Tian ranked martial spirit. It's obvious that you won't stand a chance against him in the trial. However, as a safety precaution, I would like to ask you to forfeit the trial at the start of the trial. If you're able to do it, I'll reward you handsomely after the trial. If you can't do it, I'm a vengeful person. Everyone, please be careful in Shadow City." Saying this, he stared with his eyes open wide as a ferocious aura was emitted from his body. The crowd immediately came to a realization after hearing this. This Rin Fei was trying to bribe them so that this Duan Rin would come first in the trial. Haha, Brother Rin is so funny. The disciple with the name Duan Rin wore a calm smile as he glanced at the crowd and said, "However, I do have a reason for coming here. To prevent any accidents from happening, I hope that you can give me some face, as we'll be friends in the future." Duan Rin hesitated for a moment before he continued, "What do you guys think?" Saying this, the ancient saber on his back began to buzz vigorously as a faint saber intent was emitted from it. Rin Fei was using his authority to pressure them. Now Duan Rin was using his strength to threaten them. Chapter 896. A Genius Remembers Love in 1 Second Divided by Little? Shua Net provides you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 899. The three-colored lotus pond. Everyone's expression changed at the same time. Read the full article. More information at www. They were no ordinary cultivators with formidable backgrounds, thus they did not feel comfortable being threatened in such a manner. These two are so full of themselves. Sima Kong harumphed coldly as his eyes flickered with disdain. He hadn't even threatened anyone yet, and these two fellows were already threatening him? Qin Nan's expression remained the same, as he was not affected by the words. Could it be that everyone here wants to make an enemy out of the two of us? Rin Fei raised his eyebrows as he scanned the crowd from Qin Nan. Then I'll have to ask someone to investigate your identities, and in the future, it was obvious what he was trying to say. Many among the crowd held their breaths, before they clenched their teeth and transmitted their divine sense. Rin Fei's eyes flickered as he scanned the crowd and complimented, "Not bad, you're very smart. Once the trial is over, I'll reward you accordingly. But what about you three?" Rin Fei glanced at Qin Nan, Sima Kong, and a cultivator. The sons of the fourth elder of the Shadow Pagoda and the inner disciples of the Heaven Saber sect dare to join forces to threaten someone in a trial? Hee, I don't care what you say, I'm going to take part in the trial anyway. The cultivator wore a firm look. Sima Kong twisted his lips with a disdainful look. As for Qin Nan, he did not say a single word. Very well. Rin Fei's expression stiffened slightly, before it became unpleasant. He had only threatened the crowd because he wanted to impress Duan Rin, to let him know that he had an extraordinary status in the Shadow Pagoda. However, to his surprise, these three were not bothered by his presence. Advertisement. Duan Ren's eyes flickered coldly. He had indeed come here to do something. This special medallion was very important to him. Of course, it wasn't that he didn't have confidence in himself. It was just that he wanted to deal with it easily. At that instant, a fragrant wind blew, followed by a calm voice. "Everyone, I am your examiner. You can just call me Wei Lin." A wild-looking woman wearing a beast armor appeared in front of the crowd. Her aura was overwhelming, indicating that she was an expert of the 9th layer martial ancestor realm. "Greetings, Senior Sister Wei Lin." Ren Fei immediately brought his fists together. Wei Lin's status in the Shadow Pagoda was not weak, and she was one of the young lady's people. It went without saying that he would not dare to slight her. "Senior Sister Wei Lin." At that instant, the cultivator who had rebuked Ren Fei before suddenly stepped forward and said in a loud tone, "Before the trial, I have something to say." Just a moment ago, Ren Fei and Duan Ren threatened the crowd, trying to use their authority to force us to withdraw from the trial. Ren Fei and Duan Ren were startled hearing this. This asshole dared to do that. Wasn't he worried that they would be infuriated? Wei Lin's expression remained the same. She did not even glance at Ren Fei as she calmly said, "It's considered a trial, so there's no need to complain." "Love go little say, W Chu," the young man was stunned, while the figures of the disciples who had agreed to withdraw from the trial shuddered. Ren Fei and Duan Ren let out relieved sighs, before glancing at the cultivator coldly. They would not forgive him once the trial was over. "The trial begins now. Follow me." Wei Lin turned around and led the group out of the side hall. They arrived at a large hall in the depths of the first floor. The hall was very spacious. There were only 20 tightly shut bronze doors. A crystal was pasted on each door, and 3 incense sticks were inserted into each of the crystals. This is... Qin Nan scanned the 10 doors and his eyes flickered with astonishment. Inside the 10 doors was a room that was more than 300 feet long. In the center of the room was a pool that was more than 10 feet long. In the pool there were lotuses growing. The petals of the lotuses had 3 different colors. When combined together, it was quite a beautiful sight. However, Qin Nan could sense a shocking danger from the beauty. "The trial is very fair. Inside the door behind you is the 3-colored lotus pond, which is filled with danger. What you need to do is to enter the 3-colored lotus pond and fight against it. The one who lasts the longest will be considered the winner." Wei Lin said with an expressionless face, "Remember, enter the door and unleash your tree of martial ancestor. The 3-colored lotus pond will adjust its power according to your tree of martial ancestor." "I see." Qin Nan came to a realization. Although the trial seemed to be very fair, the Shadow Pagoda's intention was to test everyone's strength. "The trial begins now. Go in." Wei Lin waved her hand as if she was not in the mood to explain further. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The cultivators present did not hesitate and stepped into the door one after another. As Qin Nan and Sima Kong were about to enter the door, a cold voice echoed in their minds, "How stupid are you two? I'm sure I'll win the trial, yet you still insist on going against me. I'm not happy about it." Qin Nan and Sima Kong turned their heads around. They saw Ren Fei and Duan Ren staring at them with hollow smiles. "Are you out of your mind?" Sima Kong rolled his eyes. These 2 assholes dared to call him stupid. "You dare to scold me?" Ren Fei and Duan Ren's eyes widened. They did not expect the fatty to be so bold. "So what? Of course I'm scolding you. You're just the son of an elder, a guy ranked over 900 on the monarch ranking, yet you dare to be so smug. I'll show you who I am." Sima Kong lost his temper and was about to show his purple badge. At that instant, Wei Lin's voice could be heard. "That's enough, stop talking. Go in at once. Otherwise, you'll fail the trial." Sima Kong immediately gave up after hearing the words. He was fine with it, but he did not want to drag Qin Nan into the mess. "Alright, let's go." Qin Nan smiled. He was too lazy to say anything further. With a flicker, he took the lead and entered the house. On the other hand, Ren Fei and Duan Ren's expressions turned ugly. They didn't expect this fatty to dare to challenge them. Could it be that this fatty had some kind of background? If his background was stronger than theirs, why would he still take part in the trial? Let's check his identity later. The two exchanged glances with one another before they harumphed and entered the doors. The 20 doors were all filled with people. However, as soon as the trial began, the cultivators who had surrendered immediately withdrew from the trial. Boring. When Wei Lin saw this, 2 words popped out from the corner of her mouth. In her opinion, Ren Fei, Duan Ren, the fatty, and the rest of the crowd were nothing special. Even though they were given a special badge, it was nowhere enough. Following this, she let out a sigh. If she knew this was going to happen, she would not be the examiner today. Despite that, Wei Lin still executed her eye technique and glanced at the 20 doors. After all, it was part of her duty. However, her eyelashes shuddered following a glance. Chapter 897. A Genius Remembering Love in 1 Second? Here's a fascinating novel for you to read. C_T. Chapter 900. The 15th incense stick. As Qin Nan entered the door, instead of attacking, he stared at the 3-colored lotus pond and fell into deep thought. Advertisement, access. That Wei Lin didn't mention how long I have to stay in the 3-colored lotus pond. It seems like it depends on who can last the longest inside the 3-colored lotus pond. Qin Nan mumbled to himself, if that's the case, I might as well destroy it. His gaze sharpened all of a sudden. He had already observed the 3-colored lotus pond with his left eye at the beginning. Deep inside it were a few terrifying formations that intertwined with one another. With his left eye of the divine god of battle, it did not necessarily mean that he could not destroy it. Most importantly, the formations inside the 3-colored lotus pond would adjust themselves according to the strength of the martial ancestor's tree of martial ancestor. As such, Qin Nan had a greater chance of destroying it. As for the reason why Qin Nan decided to destroy it, it was because he had considered the trial as an opportunity for the Shadow Pagoda to witness the strength of the geniuses. Qin Nan had no idea why, but he was sure that the stronger his strength was, the greater the benefits he would receive. Martial Ancestor's Tree of Martial Ancestor, unleash. Qin Nan uttered a groan. Instead of unleashing the divine battle tree, he unleashed the strongest one. Buzz buzz buzz. The 3-colored lotus pond emitted a faint glow as if it was aware of something, causing its terrifying aura to decrease gradually. Now's the time. As the aura of the 3-colored lotus pond stabilized, Qin Nan stomped his foot and arrived at the top of the pond. Bang! At that instant a great change took place. He could only see the petals of the lotuses flying out from the pond, which transformed into rays of light. Not only that, the surrounding leaves emitted a terrifying sharpness, causing the water in the pond to boil vigorously, forming giant hands grabbing at Qin Nan. Advertisement. In the blink of an eye, killer moves were launched from all directions. One could neither ascend into the sky nor descend into the ground. However, Qin Nan seemed to have expected this, and his figure suddenly moved. Slash. Following a roar, Qin Nan swung his right arm and emitted a shocking saber intent, shattering the incoming attacks. As he shattered the attacks, his figure shifted slightly as he dodged the attacks coming from behind and to his left and right. In an instant, Qin Nan had taken control of the entire battle. Suppress. With a thought, Qin Nan sprang into the air, followed by the lotus flowers and the water of the lake. The tree of martial ancestor above his head crushed down with a shocking might, suppressing everything. That being said, the 3-colored lotus pond was no ordinary pond. Countless lotus flowers burst out from the depths of the pond and flew upward at a rapid pace. More and more killing moves were awakening in the lotus pond. At the same time, in the main hall, Love go little say, netku the geniuses who had agreed to Ren Fei and Duan Ren's request shook their heads and gave up on the trial after experiencing the power of the three-colored lotus pond. In their opinion, there was no way they could come first in the trial. Although they were displeased, they would not choose to offend Ren Fei and Duan Ren. In addition to that, Ren Fei also gave up on the trial. He was here to accompany Duan Ren in the first place. Those three guys are still in the middle of the trial. Duan Ren's strength is so outstanding, I don't think they have much of a chance. That's hard to say. If they dare to challenge Ren Fei and Duan Ren, they won't be able to do it without a certain level of strength. Let's wait and see then. The cultivators were not in a rush to leave after whispering among themselves. They decided to wait instead. As a matter of fact, it was mainly due to the dark side of their hearts. They had surrendered, but Qin Nan and his crew did not, which made them seem like cowards. However, in their opinion, surrendering was the smart choice instead of being cowards. As such, they were eager to see if Qin Nan and his crew were going to lose the trial. If they lost the trial, they would feel extremely relieved. Ren Fei harumphed coldly after hearing the comment. He glanced at Wei Lin without being bothered by it. He could not help but admit that Wei Lin was quite charming. Senior sister Wei Lin. Ren Fei took a deep breath and wore a faint grin. He was about to approach Wei Lin. Piss off. Wei Lin did not even look at him. She waved her hand impatiently, while her eyes were still staring at the door Qin Nan was in. Ren Fei's face turned green and purple in an instant. He didn't expect that he would be directly ignored by Wei Lin. However, little did he know that Wei Lin's attention was completely attracted by Qin Nan's battle. Such a powerful martial ancestors tree. With such a powerful martial ancestors tree, he must have achieved the martial sacred realm in the past, and refined some kind of artifact. Wei Lin's eyes flickered with astonishment as she observed the battle. Not only that, his eye technique is extremely powerful, allowing him to see through every attack and predict the direction of his attacks. What astonished her the most was the battle intent that Qin Nan was emitting. This battle intent was like a flame that burned more and more fiercely and vigorously as the battle progressed. Compared to Qin Nan, that Duan Ren was still slightly weaker. That being said, it's hard to say. Duan Ren has too many tricks up his sleeves. It's hard to tell who's going to win. Wei Lin shook her head after calming her thoughts. Time gradually passed. Not long after, the time it took for an incense stick to burn had passed. Sima Kong and the other young man who had reported Ren Fei were both ejected from the two big doors. In other words, they could not hold on any longer. Sima Kong was still fine, his face full of leisure, but that young man's face turned extremely gloomy. They can't hold on any longer. They can't hold on any longer either. Hee, how stupid. They were already no match for Duan Ren. Why did they insist on challenging him? Why don't they learn from us and surrender without offending anyone? That's right. The surrounding geniuses uttered hollow laughs. Ren Fei glanced at the young man and Sima Kong with a mocking grin. Trying to resist? How naive. What are you looking at? Sima Kong was aware of Ren Fei's gaze. He rolled his eyes and snapped. Who are you laughing at? Even though I'm not good at fighting, I'm telling you that Duan Ren is going to lose for sure. Lose for sure? Ren Fei's eyes widened. The other geniuses were startled too. They never would have thought that Sima Kong would actually dare to say such words. You're going to lose for sure. Ren Fei withheld his anger and said in a cold tone, lasting for the period of 3 incense sticks at the tricolor lotus pond is considered to have met the requirement of the Shadow Pagoda. The longest anyone has lasted was 20 incense sticks. I don't mind telling you that Duan Ren can last for at least 15 incense sticks. Chapter 898. Geniuses remember love in 1 second divided by little? Here's an interesting novel for you to read. C_T. Chapter 901 coming out early what? 15 incense sticks? Isn't this Duan Ren a bit too powerful? How powerful is 15 incense sticks? There's no way he can beat Duan Ren. That's for sure. The faces of the group of geniuses turned pale, and they could not help but ask. A love go little say, chew access to the full text. They had personally experienced the power of the three-colored lotus pond, thus they clearly knew how difficult it was to last for the period it took 15 incense sticks to burn. Sima Kong's eyes flickered with disdain after seeing this. He was too lazy to speak further. These people were just a bunch of frogs at the bottom of a well. It was meaningless to waste his time talking to them. The truth would be revealed soon. Ren Fei assumed that Qin Nan was utterly terrified when he saw Qin Nan remaining silent, thus the disdain on his face was replaced by disdain. This damn fatty, now you finally know how powerful Duan Ren is, right? Wei Lin was the only one who ignored the chatter around her. Her eyes were still fixed on Qin Nan's battle. The more she observed, the more she realized that she had underestimated her opponent. As the battle continued, it was as if Qin Nan's battle possessed some sort of magic, causing the crowd to be immersed in it. Love go little say, chew the magic was the result of a battle that had reached its limit, resulting in a shocking scene, causing the crowd to exclaim in admiration. A while later, Wei Lin frowned all of a sudden. This was because she was no longer able to see through the door with her eye technique. Instead, it was blocked by a thin layer of mist. It was a special trick that the Shadow Pagoda had prepared, to prevent those with eye techniques from seeing through the door, allowing the geniuses inside to unleash their true strength. Normally, Wei Lin would not be bothered by it, but now, she was quite troubled. Ignorant. Wei Lin calmed herself down and heard the group of geniuses still whispering to each other. She said coldly in her heart, was 15 incense sticks really that impressive? With Qin Nan's current combat strength, not to mention 15 incense sticks, even 20 incense sticks of time would be enough for him to retreat. At the same time, inside the door. Is there a restriction that blocks everything? Qin Nan turned around and saw layers of ancient forbidding auras flickering on the corners of the walls, encapsulating the entire room. The forbidding aura was most likely designed to deal with eye technique. Even the left eye of the divine god of battle was greatly hindered by it. The person who constructed this three-colored lotus pond is indeed painstakingly built. The series of battles has given me a pleasant feeling. Qin Nan squinted his eyes as he glanced at the lotuses that kept pouring out from the pond, before he said, however, based on the current situation, it's better for me to save some time. Boom. At that instant, his right arm exploded. Qin Nan held the heaven-shattering saber in his hand. His aura underwent a tremendous change once again, as if nothing could stand in his way. Slash! At that instant, countless saber intents were fired into the sky. Time passed by slowly. Not long after, the period it took 4 incense sticks to burn had passed. The Shadow Pagoda's requirement was to exceed the period it took 3 incense sticks to burn. Both of them had reached the requirement. What's the big deal about surpassing the standard? Ren Fei curled his lips, but his expression remained as calm as a mountain. In his mind, Duan Ren would definitely win this test. However, at that instant, a sudden squeak could be heard. Wei Lin, Sima Kong, Ren Fei, and the rest of the geniuses were stunned. What was going on? Why was someone coming out now? According to Ren Fei, Duan Ren could at least last for the period it took 15 incense sticks to burn. Did that mean? Sima Kong's expression changed slightly. Wei Lin subconsciously glanced toward the entrance too. Following this, they saw Qin Nan's figure walking out from the entrance with a calm aura. How is this possible? Almost at the same time, the same thought appeared in the minds of Sima Kong and Wei Lin, especially the former, whose eyes widened in astonishment. That was Qin Nan they were talking about. The famous Qin Nan could only last for the period it took 4 incense sticks to burn against someone with the same cultivation? In the midst of the crowd's astonishment, Ren Fei was the first to react and burst out laughing. I was wondering how impressive you were, but you could only last for the period it took 4 incense sticks to burn. That damn fatty, what did you say just now? Didn't you say Duan Ren would surely lose? Let's see who's going to lose now. Ren Fei's face blushed with excitement. Most importantly, that fatty was too full of himself. Now that Duan Ren had given him a slap in the face, it was reasonable for him to be excited. I told you, there's no way he could match Duan Ren. Hee, it's only the period it took 4 incense sticks to burn. If I tried my best, I could achieve the same result too. I really don't know what they were thinking. Why didn't they just surrender at the beginning? Why did they have to take part in the trial? That's right, now that they have offended Duan Ren and Ren Fei, I would like to see what they are going to do about it. The surrounding geniuses collected their thoughts and blurted out with gloating looks, as if they were Qin Nan's enemies at that instant. The young man who had reported Ren Fei previously shuddered violently upon seeing this, causing his aura to fall silent. Qin Nan Sima Kong subconsciously wanted to ask Qin Nan something when he saw him approaching, but he could not find any words. Besides, the more he thought about it, the more he felt that something was not right. Impossible. Wei Lin collected her thoughts and snapped at Qin Nan with a cold expression. With your battle intent, martial ancestor tree, and unique eye technique, there's no way you could only last for the period it took 4 incense sticks to burn. Tell me, why did you come out in advance? Before she could finish, Ren Fei chuckled and said, Senior Sister Wei Lin, what do you mean by that? Everyone saw that he only lasted for the period it took 4 incense sticks to burn. What else is there to say? Shut up. Wei Lin ignored him for the second time without turning her head around. Her eyes were still staring at Qin Nan. Since there are no more attacks, I decided to come out in advance. Qin Nan calmly glanced at Ren Fei and the others and calmly said, Cultivator Wei Lin, I believe destroying the 3-colored lotus pond isn't considered breaking the rules, right? As soon as these words were spoken, the entire hall instantly fell into a deathly silence. The geniuses present, including Wei Lin, Sima Kong, and the others, were stunned. What did Qin Nan just say? He destroyed the 3-colored lotus pond? Impossible. Ren Fei subconsciously refuted upon hearing this. That's the 3-colored lotus pond. Even a genius with a 5th-grade Tian-ranked martial spirit wouldn't be able to do that. However, before he could finish, Qin Nan waved his hand and unleashed an invisible force. Squeak! The tightly shut door in the distance slowly opened, revealing the appearance of the 3-colored lotus pond. The crowd subconsciously glanced toward it, which served as a great shock to them. Chapter 899. Geniuses remember love in 1 second divided by little? SegNet, providing you with interesting novels to read. C_T. Chapter 902, The Astonishment of the Broken Blade Inside the Door. The 3-colored lotus pond that had astonished countless geniuses was now in a mess, with a few huge ravines on its surface. Love go little say, Chu these were the marks of the saber. The terrifying saber intent lingered on the saber mark for a long time, but it did not dissipate. Even now, the crowd could still sense how terrifying the saber intent was. The 3-colored lotus pond. It had been destroyed by this young man with brute force. Furthermore, it had only taken him the period it took 3 incense sticks to burn. Just how terrifying was this person's battle prowess? Could it be that he was unbeatable among his peers? Ha ha ha! Sima Kong was the first to recover from the shock, who burst out laughing just like Ren Fei. What was going on? How could the famous Qin Nan only last the period it took 4 incense sticks to burn in the 3-colored lotus pond? It turned out that this guy had overexerted himself and destroyed the 3-colored lotus pond. After a burst of laughter, Sima Kong squinted his eyes and glanced at Ren Fei, before saying in a mocking tone, Young Master Ren, what did I tell you before? You will surely lose. Now I would like to ask you, am I right? Weren't you full of yourself before? Why are you so scared now? After hearing this, the silence of the crowd was broken, as the other geniuses inhaled deeply, while their gazes toward Qin Nan were filled with great respect. As for Ren Fei, he could only feel a heavy blow to his chest, causing him to have difficulty breathing. Even now, he still couldn't believe his eyes. Was it really destroyed? Did this guy really do it? Why aren't you saying anything? Say something. Sima Kong straightened his face and yelled, unleashing an imperious aura. Almost all the books you want to read are here. It's more stable than ordinary websites, and the updates are faster too. There are no advertisements. Ren Fei was so scared that he took 3 steps back. His face was pale. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. The fact that the young man was able to achieve such an unbelievable feat proved that he had an extraordinary background. At the very least, Ren Fei would not be able to bully them. Right now, Ren Fei felt like he had kicked a huge mountain with a single kick. Humph! Sima Kong looked at him and snorted. He was too lazy to say anything more. There was no sense of accomplishment in bullying someone like Ren Fei. How did you do it? Wei Lin suddenly took a big step forward and grabbed Qin Nan's shoulders with both hands. Her eyes flickered with astonishment as she panted heavily. Your attacks were all deadly, and almost all of them hit the weak points of the formation. Are you able to see through the flaws of the formation? And you? It turned out that this Wei Lin was extremely fond of martial arts. Thus, even though she was an expert, she was unable to remain calm after seeing such an unimaginable thing. I'm sorry, I can't tell you that, Qin Nan calmly said as he pulled Wei Lin's hands away. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. Wei Lin collected her thoughts and blushed slightly. She then took a deep breath to calm her thoughts and said, Your strength is truly an eye-opener for Wei Lin. However, the trial is still the trial. I'm not sure how far Duanren has managed to go. We'll have to wait for him here. As a matter of fact, there was no need for them to wait. The crowd already knew the answer in their hearts. All right. Qin Nan wore a helpless expression upon hearing this. He had only destroyed the lotus pond with brute force just to save some time. If he knew this would happen, he would not have come out in such a hurry. He could have enjoyed the battle a little longer. Following this, the geniuses who had insulted Qin Nan previously hesitated for a moment before approaching Qin Nan. Qin Nan remained expressionless. He did not respond to the conversation. On the other hand, Sima Kong seemed to have forgotten about what had just happened. He was having a great time chatting with the crowd. That being said, it was not a good thing to be close to Sima Kong. Finally, after the period it took 15 incense sticks to burn, Duanren's figure slowly walked out from the door with a squeak. The crowd immediately turned their heads toward him. At that moment, Duanren was covered in sweat. His clothes were torn in several places, giving him a miserable appearance. However, his eyes were bright and full of expression. You're all out? Duanren wore a grin when he saw Qin Nan and the others. His eyes scanned Qin Nan, Sima Kong, and the other young man before he said with a disdainful look, Do you still remember what I said? You're just wasting my time. Besides, you've offended me. When everyone present heard this, their expressions became strange. Ren Fei, who was standing a distance away, was startled. He immediately interrupted, Duanren, that's enough. That's enough? That won't do. Duanren did not give Ren Fei any chance to speak. He let out a hollow laugh and said, I'm too lazy to waste my time on you, but I believe I'll let you know the consequences of offending me soon. After uttering these words, Duanren let out a sigh and glanced at Wei Lin. At this moment, his attitude was no longer as scornful. Senior Sister Wei Lin, I believe you can announce the result now? My result is quite ordinary. I'm sorry to embarrass myself. Duanren let out a calm smile. The words were meant to be sarcastic, as he wanted Wei Lin to praise his result. As for the crowd, Qin Nan and Sima Kong, their expressions became even stranger. This Duanren was quite interesting. Your result is indeed ordinary, Wei Lin said coldly without glancing at him. Duanren was stunned hearing this. He almost thought he had heard it wrong. Ordinary? Did Wei Lin just say that his result was ordinary? Wasn't this Wei Lin's standards too high? However, Wei Lin's next sentence was like a bolt of lightning that struck down. I hereby announce that he is the winner of the trial. Wei Lin pointed her finger at Qin Nan. What? He's the winner? Duanren was stunned hearing this. His face was filled with disbelief. Wei Lin, are you kidding me? I lasted for the period it took 15 incense sticks to burn. You dare to say that he's the winner, you? Enough! At that instant, a roar could be heard. It turned out to be Ren Fei. Ren Fei looked like he was about to burst into tears as he said, That's enough, Duanren. Take a look yourself. Look? What do you want me to look at? What's? Duanren was confused, but he still followed Ren Fei's finger and glanced at the door. With just a glance, his face instantly turned extremely colorful. F***K. Are you kidding me? Chapter 900. A Genius Remembering Love in 1 Second? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 903. Yin and Yang Dao Liquid. The geniuses stared at Duanren as if they were looking at an idiot. Accessed. Give me the badge you used to enter the city. Wei Lin shook her head and said to Qin Nan. Sure. Qin Nan immediately handed her the green badge instead of Sima Kong's purple badge. The peak leader of the human peak of the Dragon Emperor Court, Qin Nan? Wei Lin's eyes flickered with astonishment after taking a glimpse. The surrounding geniuses were startled too, as they did not expect Qin Nan to have such an identity. Only Ren Fei's eyes flickered. All right, here's your special badge. You won't be charged for the first 3 times, and the information will be delivered to you within 2 hours. Wei Lin handed Qin Nan a pitch-black badge and calmly said, Just a reminder, you won't be able to access the information regarding Emperor Wu's level. The geniuses glanced at the badge with a hint of envy. With the badge, it was a lot easier to access the information. Thanks. Qin Nan's eyes flickered as he nodded. He took the badge and transmitted a message. He could not wait to find out if there was a place with a high concentration of tribulations in the middle continent that he could absorb. After chatting for a while, Qin Nan left the hall under Sima Kong's urging. Wei Lin's eyes flickered seeing Qin Nan and Qin Nan leaving. She took out a unique badge and transmitted a message. Young mistress, that guy is Qin Nan from the human peak of the Dragon Emperor Court. He shattered the 3-colored lotus pond. When Qin Nan and the Heavenly Fortune Mouse walked out of the first floor, the 2 dogs waiting outside immediately pounced at them, causing the Heavenly Fortune Mouse to show a look of disdain. It was clear that the 2 dogs had been scared out of their wit. They had always felt that all the cultivators that passed by had bad intentions towards them. Qin Nan, come with me. Sima Kong did not waste any time as he led Qin Nan through Shadow City. A while later, they arrived at a small residence in a secluded area. Qin Nan glanced around. This courtyard was filled with many strange restrictions. Even a peak martial ancestor would not be able to pry into it. Look at how anxious you are. Qin Nan smiled and shook his head. This was the first time he saw Sima Kong acting like this. How can I not be anxious? This is a big deal. Sima Kong rolled his eyes. He then took a deep breath and carefully took out a jade jar from his storage bag with a stern expression. As soon as the jade jar was taken out, the qi in the courtyard became chaotic, causing the surroundings to be filled with a strange sensation. Inside the jar floated 3 drops of liquid with a white and gray color. At the center of the liquid, there seemed to be an ancient glow flickering, resulting in a mystical sight. What are these? Qin Nan's eyes flickered with astonishment. He was unable to peek through the 3 drops of liquid with his left eye. The 2 hounds were not aware of anything. They glanced around in the courtyard as if they were searching for something. Only the heavenly fortune mouse was staring at the 3 drops of liquid with its eyes fixed on them. These are the yin and yang Dao liquids. A rare pained expression appeared on Sima Kong's face as he said, "Drip them on your eyes, and you'll possess the energy of yin and yang. At that time, combined with the power of your eyes, you'll be able to see through the karma energy of the heavens and earth on the fate-changing map." The yin and yang Dao liquids, huh? Very well, let's have a try. Qin Nan reached out his hand and grabbed the jade jar, before dripping the liquid onto his left eye. He was unsure of the exact value of the yin and yang Dao liquids, but judging from Sima Kong's reaction, it must be some kind of rare treasure. As the 3 drops of yin and yang Dao liquid landed on Qin Nan's left eye, an unexpected change took place. Bang! Following a loud crash, Qin Nan's expression changed tremendously. He could only feel a giant mountain crushing down onto his left eye, trying to crush it. Qin Nan, what's going on? Sima Kong's expression changed too, as he did not expect this to happen. Could it be that even Qin Nan's eye was unable to withstand the power of the yin and yang Dao liquids? First form of the divine god of battle, unrivaled warrior. Qin Nan uttered a groan as his battle intent rose rapidly. His left eye emitted a shocking purple glow, which intertwined with each other like a giant web blocking the mountain's path. Whoosh! At that instant, the giant mountain rapidly collapsed as if it was aware of the power of Qin Nan's eye, before it turned into a stream of yin and yang force and entered his eye. Gasp! Qin Nan could not help but inhale deeply, as if his left eye was being pierced by countless spikes. This yin and yang Dao liquid is indeed impressive. Qin Nan endured the pain and scanned his left eye with his divine sense. He discovered that his left eye was filled with wisps of gray energy, which turned out to be the yin and yang force. Refine it properly. Qin Nan calmed his thoughts and sat down with his legs crossed, before falling silent. Phew, that almost scared me to death. Sima Kong let out a relieved sigh. His face was filled with lingering fear. If something were to happen to Qin Nan, he would feel guilty for the rest of his life. The 2 dogs standing at the side stared at him maliciously. They didn't know why, but they had a feeling that this fatty was up to no good. Time gradually passed. An hour later, Qin Nan exhaled deeply and slowly opened his left eye. Qin Nan, how did it go? Sima Kong, who had been waiting for a long time, could not help but ask. Bang! When Qin Nan's left eye fully opened, a magical storm burst out from it with a shocking aura. Oh my! The 2 hounds who were sound asleep in the residence were terrified. They immediately fled for their lives as they thought they were being ambushed. It worked. My left eye has 10 wisps of yin and yang force, which I can control freely. Qin Nan frowned instead of showing any joy on his face. However, I have a feeling that if I overuse it, the 10 wisps of yin and yang force will dissipate, of course. Sima Kong let out a relieved sigh and said in an unpleasant tone, if the yin and yang force doesn't dissipate, the place will be in chaos. You can easily use your left eye to see the destiny-altering map. Alright, there's still an hour before the information arrives. Bring me to the map betting area. Qin Nan let out a smile as his eyes flickered. He was eager to see what the map betting area was like with his own eyes. Hee, that's a great place. Qin Nan, watch carefully. We don't have many chances, so be careful. Sima Kong's face was filled with excitement. He did not forget to remind Qin Nan, before he immediately led Qin Nan, the 2 hounds, and 1 mouse to the other side of Shadow City. Meanwhile, in a mysterious hall of the Shadow Pagoda, a pleasant voice could be heard. Sister Wei Lin, according to what you said, this Qin Nan is no ordinary person. After all, no one with a first-grade Tian-ranked martial spirit would be able to destroy the 3-colored lotus pond. However, we just need to keep an eye on him. Chapter 901. A Genius Will Remember Love in a Second/Small? Let's talk about it, providing you with interesting novels to read. C_T. Chapter 904. Threatening May. A while later, Qin Nan and the others arrived at the other side of Shadow City. 79XS. In front of them was an ordinary-looking door. There were only 3 words written on the door: Miracle City. Miracle City? Qin Nan raised his eyebrows. You'll know once you're inside. Once you're inside, you'll know what kind of era we're in. Sima Kong chuckled as he pushed the door open. As soon as Qin Nan stepped into it, he could feel a magical force encapsulating his figure, causing him to fall rapidly into the ground. A few breaths later, they arrived at the bottom. The surroundings were pitch black, with only an ordinary wooden door in front of them. Sima Kong took a large step forward and pushed open the wooden door. A dazzling light shone in. Ancient maps. The latest batch of ancient maps. They've all been appraised by the Shadow Pagoda, and are capable of altering your destiny. Each ancient map only costs 30,000 monarch crystals. Do you want to become stronger? Do you want to dominate the world? Come and buy these destiny-altering maps. This is your only chance. Do you feel that you're too ordinary? Do you feel how tiny you are? Only by going against the heavens and changing one's fate is everything. The ancient maps that we've been collecting for a year are all here. They're all exquisite, don't miss out on them. What you're missing out on is a destiny-altering fortunate encounter. Countless shouts and cries surged like a surging tide. The 2 hounds and the heavenly fortune mouse were dumbfounded. Even Qin Nan's eyes were filled with astonishment. A huge dojo appeared in front of them, with a few thousand stalls on it. Each stall had ancient maps scattered on it. The stalls were crowded with rogue cultivators wearing various outfits. Some were from 2-starred factions, some were from 3-starred factions, some were from unknown factions, and some were from strange tribes. Similarly, there were also martial ancestor experts and martial saint experts. At a rough glance, there were at least 3,000 people. The atmosphere on the dojo was incredibly lively. Even the first floor of the Shadow Pagoda was incomparable to it. Qin Nan took a deep breath, came back to his senses, and carefully scanned it. He saw geniuses with 5th grade Tian-ranked martial spirits and 5th grade D-ranked martial spirit. Their expressions were either hesitation, contemplation, determination, or madness. For some reason, Qin Nan's state of mind seemed to have been touched. Haha, are you scared? The first time I came here, it was the same. Sima Kong's eyes flickered as his blood became restless. This is the epitome of the current era. Not only Shadow City, many places in the Middle Continent, even the Half-God region, have similar places too. These words made Qin Nan come to a sudden realization. That's right, this was the current era. An era where people would go crazy just to alter their destinies. The reason being that only those who were born extraordinary or those who altered their destinies would be able to become an expert. However, it was Qin Nan's first time witnessing how everyone was here for the sake of map betting. What are the rules of the map betting here? Qin Nan exhaled deeply and asked. His eyes flickered. He was quite fond of the aura here. The reason being that the people here had never given up hope. Basically, each ancient map is worth 30,000 monarch crystals, while the incomplete maps are worth around 8 to 10,000 monarch crystals. But don't worry, this miracle city is under the control of the Shadow Pagoda. Each ancient map has undergone a special trial. Only those that possess the fortunate encounter to alter their destinies will be placed here. Sima Kong exclaimed as a thought crossed his mind, but it's not that easy to alter one's destiny. Most of the ancient maps only contain Xian-ranked martial spirits or D-ranked martial spirit. It's rare to find a Tian-ranked martial spirit, let alone a 4th grade or 5th grade Tian-ranked martial spirit, Qin Nan nodded his head hearing this. It was not easy to alter one's destiny. Come, let's go and pick the ancient maps. Don't worry, I still have enough monarch crystals to buy a few ancient maps. Sima Kong's face also became excited. Qin Nan shook his head and led the way with the 2 hounds and 1 mouse. The power of yin and yang activate for me. Qin Nan groaned as 10 streams of force of yin and yang were activated in his eyes, causing his pupils to turn gray. Miracle City did not forbid eye techniques or probing method. This was because how difficult would it be to see how great the opportunities on the fate-changing map were? So this is the force of karma? Qin Nan glanced at an ancient map at a random stall and discovered a strange force being emitted from it. However, it was extremely weak. It was obvious that the fortunate encounter the ancient map contained was not strong enough. As soon as Qin Nan shifted his gaze, a cultivator who had been hesitating for a long time took out his monarch crystals and bought the ancient map before leaving in a hurry. It would not take long for the cultivator to realize that the 30,000 monarch crystals he had spent had been wasted. Qin Nan remained silent seeing this. Even though he had the divine battle spirit, allowing him to defy the rules of the world, he was not allowed to interfere with everyone's destiny. What's going on? Qin Nan's expression changed all of a sudden. What's wrong? Sima Kong was startled. He had placed all his hopes on Qin Nan. The force of yin and yang is dissipating. Qin Nan straightened his face. He did not know why, but after he activated them, the 10 strands of yin and yang energy actually dissipated at a shocking speed. It was far beyond his expectations. What? Sima Kong was startled. How fast are they dissipating? We're running out of time. Quick! Qin Nan quickened his pace without wasting any time. His left eye rapidly scanned the stalls. However, he still could not find a single stall with a strong fluctuation of the force of karma. Meanwhile, half of the force of yin and yang had been depleted. Crap, even though there are a lot of stalls and ancient maps here, it doesn't necessarily mean there's a shocking destiny-altering fortunate encounter here. If there isn't a single one of them, the yin-yang Dao liquid would be wasted. Qin Nan's heart sank. Sima Kong wore a miserable expression as he prayed in his heart, praying to the martial gods to protect him. The yin-yang Dao liquid was extremely valuable. It would be a great loss if they did not find anything useful. At that instant, squeak, squeak. All of a sudden, the heavenly fortune mouse began to dance. Its eyes were glittering brightly as it pointed its fingers forward randomly. The mouse is out of its mind. The 2 hounds stared with their eyes wide open. It was their first time seeing the heavenly fortune mouse behaving like this. You mean it's over there? Qin Nan's eyes flickered. Time was running out, thus there was no time to overthink. He immediately headed forward. After passing the stalls and the crowd, Qin Nan suddenly came to a stop. His left eye emitted a shocking flicker as the heavenly fortune mouse on his shoulder became quiet too. Chapter 902. Genius remembers love in 1 second/small? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 905. An incomplete map in a stall not far away from him, there was a tattered and inconspicuous beast skin tattered map among the many ancient maps. It radiated with a vast power of karma. The updates were so fast. Compared to before, it was at least a few hundred times more. Qin Nan, did you find anything? Sima Kong's heart skipped a beat. He was so anxious that his forehead was covered with sweat. Even though he was the successor of the Emperor of Thieves, he could not remain calm in the face of something like this. Yes. Qin Nan nodded and let out a relieved sigh. The force of the heavens and earth in his left eye could only last for 3 breaths. Luckily, he had found a fragment of the map. Senior, we'll take these 2 map fragments. Qin Nan pointed at the 2 map fragments and said. The vendor was an old man in a black robe, who possessed a ninth-layer martial ancestors cultivation. He smilingly said after hearing Qin Nan's words, "Two young men, it seems like you're quite confident in these map fragments, coming all the way here just to buy them. If that's the case, these two map fragments will be 40,000 monarch crystals." 40,000 monarch crystals? Sima Kong was infuriated hearing this. "Are you trying to scam me?" Before he could finish, Qin Nan waved his hand and said calmly, 40,000 it is, give him the monarch crystals. This little brother sure is straightforward. The old man in a black robe wore a grin. Sima Kong seemed to have come to a realization too. He swiftly took out 40,000 monarch crystals and handed them to the old man in a black robe. The old man in a black robe handed the map fragment over too. "Wait." At that instant, a prideful voice could be heard, "2 map fragments for 50,000 monarch crystals, we'll be taking them." A young man with a dignified appearance was slowly walking over. A blue token was hanging from his waist. It was extremely eye-catching, and it was telling the people around him that his identity was definitely not ordinary. It turned out that the young man had rushed over after seeing the two of them in order to purchase the 2 map fragments. His heart skipped a beat. His intuition told him that these 2 incomplete maps were definitely not simple. Since this little brother is offering a higher price. The black-robed old man's eyes lit up and he was about to speak. To him, morality was **t. Only obtaining the monarch crystals was the truth. Is that so? Qin Nan's expression didn't change. He took out a purple token and said indifferently, "Sir, I'm sorry, but I've already negotiated this trade." He didn't expect that his casual purchase of 2 map fragments would still attract attention. This is, the expressions of the black-robed old man and the young man changed simultaneously. This person actually had a purple command badge? Could he be the son of Emperor Wu or a genius? What is it? Are you trying to rob me? Sima Kong revealed the purple token on his waist with an unfriendly expression. He was more straightforward than Qin Nan. Another purple command token? The young man and the black-robed old man could feel their scalps turning numb, as they shuddered. A person with a purple token might not be so intimidating, but a person with 2 purple tokens was definitely someone they could not afford to offend. I'm so sorry. I'll be leaving now." The young man immediately lowered his head and apologized, before leaving in a panic. "Gentlemen, I'm sorry about that. I'll sell these 2 map fragments to you for 35,000 monarch crystals." The black-robed old man was startled too, who swiftly collected his thoughts and returned the 5,000 monarch crystals. Qin Nan received the crystals without hesitation and reached out his hand to grab the 2 map fragments. At that instant, a rare occurrence took place. An invisible force descended and encapsulated Qin Nan's hand. "What's going on?" Qin Nan's expression changed slightly as he unleashed the force in his body to grab forward. However, no matter how much force he exerted, he could not move the force forward. Bang! All of a sudden, a shocking force exploded in his sea of consciousness. An illusionary force with the appearance of a human figure had arrived inside his divine sense. Die! Following a raging roar, the illusionary figure unleashed a shocking murderous intent and attacked Qin Nan's divine sense with a terrifying move. It was trying to destroy Qin Nan's divine sense. This is a killing blow formed by the heavens and earth. Does this mean that I've somehow broken the rules of the heavens and earth by using the yin and yang Tao liquid to see through the secrets of the heavens and earth? The thought crossed Qin Nan's mind, who uttered a roar in his heart as he controlled the golden seal to suppress the figure. Bang bang bang, a series of explosions took place on the illusionary figure. Despite that, it did not shatter into pieces. Instead, it began to heal rapidly, as if it were immortal. I've even surpassed the rules of cultivation. What could the rules of the heavens and earth do to me? At that instant, Qin Nan's will skyrocketed to its peak. His divine sense was inserted into the golden seal, allowing it to unleash its greatest power. Whoosh! Below the golden seal, countless golden runes were formed, which surged downward like a raging tide. The illusionary figure struggled for a moment, before it was destroyed within a few breaths' time. However, after the seal was destroyed, a stream of dark gray aura penetrated the seal like a swimming dragon and flew toward the martial spirit in Qin Nan's body at a rapid pace. It turned out that there was more than one killing blow. Destroying the divine sense first, then destroying the martial spirit. The rules of the heavens and earth are indeed ruthless. The divine battle spirit fights against the heavens and earth. There's nothing it doesn't fight and nothing it doesn't win against. Qin Nan uttered a roar in his heart. The divine battle spirit possessed extraordinary power. Although Qin Nan was unable to unleash its full power, if something dared to attack him, Qin Nan would surely awaken its will. The divine battle spirit in his body instantly responded to his call. Its hollow eyes emitted a brilliant glow, as if a deity that had been in a deep slumber had been awakened. The dark gray aura that was dashing toward the illusionary figure halted in its tracks and began to tremble vigorously, emitting a sense of terror. Bang! Under the suppression, the gray aura vanished in the blink of an eye. Phew! Qin Nan could not help but let out a sigh of relief. A sense of fatigue could be felt from his body, as his forehead was covered in a thin layer of sweat. He had used the golden seal to suppress the divine battle spirit and destroy the gray aura. It had taken him a great effort to do so. Qin Nan, what's wrong with you? Sima Kong's eyes were filled with terror as he asked cautiously. The old man in the black robe was astounded too. The heavenly fortune mouse beside Qin Nan was fine, as it was only trembling in fear, but the two hounds were lying flat on the ground, their eyes filled with terror. Just a moment ago, they had sensed a terrifying aura emitting from Qin Nan's body, striking their souls directly. I'm fine. Qin Nan let out a smile and shook his head. He reached out his hand and successfully grabbed the two pieces of the map. Finally got it. Chapter 903. A Genius Remembering Love in 1 Second? Shua.net provides you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 906, Magical Thunder City. After returning to the residence, Qin Nan tossed the map fragments to Sima Kong and said, I'll need to rest for a while. Take a look at them yourself. By the way, the Heavenly Fortune Mouse has helped you a lot, so remember to give me something useful. Advertisement. -79. Saying this, he closed his eyes. The fortunate encounters that could alter one's destiny were destined by the heavens. His action was equivalent to challenging the heavens. If it weren't for the help of the Heavenly Fortune Mouse, the Golden Seal, and the Divine Battle Spirit, it would be useless even if his eyes could contain the Yin and Yang Dao liquid. It was not easy to fight against the heavens. Upon having this thought, Qin Nan decided not to overthink it and began to rest his mind. Hee, little guy, it's all thanks to you. Sima Kong glanced at the Heavenly Fortune Mouse and fired a strange leaf into its body with a flick, causing the Heavenly Fortune Mouse to wear a satisfied expression. Well, Big Brother Fatty, you don't know this, but the reason why the rat was able to find this place was all thanks to the two of us supporting it with our thoughts. Otherwise, with its own power. The two dogs saw this scene, and their saliva was about to drip onto the ground. They hurriedly spoke up. Piss off. Sima Kong rolled his eyes. Who are you trying to fool? The two hounds continued to speak as if they were not bothered by it. Sima Kong ignored them and focused his attention on the two map fragments. This is, Sima Kong's eyes widened, as his hand that was holding the map began to tremble unconsciously. After the period it took 6 incense sticks to burn, Qin Nan opened his eyes and exhaled deeply. His mind was fully recovered. Qin Nan. Sima Kong had been waiting for him for quite some time. Seeing Qin Nan waking up, he said with a stern expression, Even though I'm the successor of the Emperor of Thieves, I've yet to acquire the treasure he left behind. This map fragment happens to be related to the tomb of the Emperor of Thieves, thus I need it. Read it in full." After a pause, he continued, "Of course, I definitely won't. Tomb of the Thief Emperor? Since that's the case, just take it. There's no need to say anything else." Qin Nan was slightly taken aback. Before Sima Kong could finish his words, he smiled and said, he didn't think that things would be so coincidental. It seemed that this risk was worth it. Sima Kong's body trembled. The map of the tomb of the Thief Emperor, even if it was just an incomplete map, was priceless. He did not expect Qin Nan to give it to him without hesitation. Sima Kong's eyes reddened as he thought of the dark and cruel things in the past. He sniffled and laughed. "Damn, you actually moved me. I almost fell in love with you." Qin Nan was shocked when he heard this. His expression changed. F***ck. What's with that expression? Can't I just make a joke? Sima Kong rolled his eyes. Qin Nan's mind darkened. He could accept it if it was just a normal joke, but he subconsciously recalled his first senior brother. There's news from the Shadow Pagoda. Qin Nan's eyes flickered when he sensed the badge vibrating slightly. He immediately unleashed his divine sense. Magical Thunder City, a 3-starred faction backed by the Heaven Saber sect. Since the city was built, it has acquired a rare artifact that is able to suppress the force of the heavens and earth. As such, countless rogue cultivators and geniuses of the Middle Continent have come here to overcome their tribulations. The first city lord of the magical Thunder City had an idea and established the Tribulation Gambling House, where there would be one a day, one a month. Qin Nan's eyes flickered as he glanced at it. He did not expect such a place to exist in the Middle Continent, not to mention that it was a faction under the Heaven Saber sect. As for the Tribulation Gambling House, it referred to 2 cultivators overcoming their tribulations at the same time, using the tribulations as their weapons. The cultivators would then place bets to see who would emerge victorious. It was quite a fair bet, as the tribulations were not something that ordinary people could control. Even though the magical Thunder City had a rare artifact that could suppress the force of the heavens and earth, the cultivators would not believe that they could control the strength of the tribulations. As such, the Tribulation Gambling House was quite huge, attracting many people. The reason being that the battles of the tribulations were extremely shocking. The tribulations of 2 peak martial Sacred Realm experts were on par with the strength of the 3rd-layer martial ancestor, not to mention the tribulations of the undefeatable martial Sacred Realm, the law-defying martial Sacred Realm, and the unique martial Sacred Realm. This place is simply too suitable for me. With this Tribulation Gambling House, doesn't that mean I'll be able to absorb the force of the heavens and earth every day? Qin Nan's eyes flickered with astonishment. Even his blood began to boil faintly. With the force of the heavens and earth, his path as the martial ancestor would reach its limit, allowing him to become an unimaginable existence. Most importantly, he could control the tribulations with the Golden Seal. At that time, wouldn't it be the same as saying that he had controlled the outcome of the bet? It would be a piece of cake for him to earn monarch crystals. Qin Nan, what's wrong? Sima Kong was startled when he saw Qin Nan's gaze. Qin Nan swiftly collected his thoughts and glanced at Sima Kong. His lips curled upward as he said, "Sima Kong, have you heard of the magical Thunder City? I'm planning to do something great, and I'll be able to earn a lot of monarch crystals there. Why don't you come with me? Magical Thunder City? The Tribulation Gambling House?" Sima Kong was startled before his eyes flickered. "What do you have up your sleeves? Let's not talk about it for now. You'll know once you come with me." Qin Nan let out a calm smile. "Damn it, why are you being so mysterious?" Sima Kong cursed before he let out a strange laugh. "Something great will happen if I follow you. I'm definitely going to the magical Thunder City." "Sure. Let's go. Qin Nan did not waste any time. He immediately rose from his seat and summoned the 2 hounds and 1 mouse, before heading out of the city with Sima Kong. After leaving Shadow City, Qin Nan and his crew returned to the Middle Sector City and found the teleportation portal to the magical Thunder City in a secluded corner. Meanwhile, in the south of the Middle Continent, following a flicker, Qin Nan and his crew appeared on a giant teleportation portal. F***CK, what the hell is this? Why did they set up a spell formation in a wasteland? Sima Kong glanced around and saw the yellow sand filling the sky, as well as the strong wind blowing in his direction, causing him to feel depressed. This magical Thunder City was quite strange indeed, setting the teleportation portal in such a secluded place. Qin Nan swiftly took out his badge. The Shadow Pagoda was quite thorough with its information, as it even sent him the exact location of the magical Thunder City. Let's go, it's not far, only a few thousand li away. Qin Nan shook his head as his figure turned into a beam of red light and flew forward. A moment later, he was 1 li away from the magical Thunder City. This. Chapter 904. A Genius Remembers Love in 1 second/small? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 907. Mysterious treasure before them, the magical Thunder City rose from the ground with a magnificent aura covering a huge area, which greatly surpassed the size of Shadow City. Dollar, cotton, flour, candy talk, access. That being said, the forbidding formations in the city were significantly weaker than those in Shadow City. When the entire city was activated, it could only fight against a level 10 martial ancestor. Even the heaven-defying martial ancestor could only block it for a short while. Qin Nan saw it through his left eye. Below the magical Thunder City was a dojo that was even bigger than the city itself. The dojo was built with a special kind of ore, with various kinds of mysterious light flowing inside it. It was also reinforced with almost a few hundred formations, making it extremely sturdy. At the end of the dojo were rows of halls densely packed together. This was truly a city within a city. This Taoist temple is the place where cultivators battle lightning tribulations. The surrounding palaces are also used for spectators to place bet. It's just that the rare treasure in the magical Thunder City is a little strange. Qin Nan muttered to himself. Previously, when he was observing with his left eye, he was curious to see what the rare artifact that was able to suppress the force of the heavens and earth was. However, to his surprise, his left eye of the divine god of battle was blocked by a strange force. In the Kanglan continent, anyone who was able to resist Qin Nan's left eye was surely extraordinary. Judging from the situation, it was highly possible that the magical Thunder City had purposely used something to conceal the rare artifact, to prevent experts with outstanding eye techniques from discovering it. Forget it, let's not think about it anymore. Let's go in and take a look. Qin Nan shook his head and headed toward the magical Thunder City with Sima Kong and the others. The magical Thunder City did not have as many rules as the Shadow City, as one could enter by paying a certain amount of monarch crystals. This spiritual Thunder City is so quiet. Sima Kong stared at the wide street with a hint of surprise in his eyes. On the streets, there were only a few dozen cultivators coming and going. The vendors on both sides of the street were also ignored. Qin Nan was not surprised at all. The tribulations of the magical Thunder City were held at the giant dojo below the city, and were held once a day. Apart from the disciples of the magical Thunder City, the cultivators from other places were here for the bet. Since the bet had yet to take place, the cultivators from the magical Thunder City would not show up. Furthermore, the magical Thunder City would only host a huge bet once every month, inviting 2 extremely powerful geniuses to battle each other. There would be a great number of cultivators attending the bet. Suddenly, Qin Nan's expression changed. It turned out that the strange piece of paper in his storage bag was emitting a mystical glow, which turned into ancient words. This strange piece of paper was left behind by the mysterious water detainer of the heaven-breaking emperor. It was used to search for the second treasure. The piece of paper reacted, which means the second treasure of the heaven-breaking emperor is here in the magical Thunder City. Does that mean the rare treasure was left behind by the heaven-breaking emperor? Qin Nan's eyes flickered. According to his speculation, the possibility was very high. Qin Nan, what's wrong? Why are you so nervous all the time? Sima Kong was startled by Qin Nan's reaction. The two hounds barked too. We've made the right choice by coming to the magical Thunder City. The benefits we're going to get are beyond our imagination. Qin Nan's eyes flickered with excitement before he calmed down as a thought crossed his mind. He transmitted his voice, Sima Kong, I'm going to do something even more important. It's very dangerous, and I'll need your help when the time comes. When he scanned the city with his left eye, he discovered 23 experts of the martial ancestor realm. 18 of them were cultivators of the first or second layer martial ancestor realm. 2 of them were cultivators of the fourth layer martial ancestor realm, while the remaining 2 were cultivators of the fifth layer and sixth layer martial ancestor realm. The strongest among them was cultivators of the eighth layer martial ancestor realm. That being said, it was also possible that some of the martial ancestor realm cultivators were rogue cultivators. Despite that, the number of martial ancestor realm cultivators was still quite impressive, not to mention the number of martial sacred realm experts and disciples. If the rare treasure turned out to be the second treasure left by the heaven-breaking emperor, Qin Nan would surely take it away, and he would need Sima Kong's help. Damn it, if you're being so courteous, I'm going to fall out with you. Sima Kong purposely straightened his face and chuckled. Are you planning to rob the magical Thunder City? Are you planning to rob them like how you robbed the Trading Alliance last time? We'll see when the time comes, I'm not sure yet. The bet hasn't started yet. Let's find a way to enter the place and take a look. Qin Nan shook his head and said. He had calmed his thoughts. Since the treasure was here, there was no need to rush it. It was time for him to take his time. His main goal was to learn more about the situation and see if the tribulation at the magical Thunder City would allow him to absorb more force of the heavens and earth. Following this, Qin Nan and his crew proceeded toward the city after asking the patrolling disciples for directions. They soon arrived at the center of the city. In front of them was a majestic hall. The hall was divided into 5 floors, and its exterior was blue. As the light of the formation flowed, it seemed like there were thunderbolts crackling and crackling. The atmosphere became lively as they arrived at the place. There were many rogue cultivators walking around, and at a rough glance, there were at least over 100 of them. The bet is about to begin. Haha, I heard that there are 2 undefeatable martial sacred realm cultivators from a 3-starred faction. That's not too bad. We'll have to wait for the announcement from the magical Thunder City. Yeah, it's more exciting. Qin Nan listened for a while before entering the palace. As soon as they entered, a disciple of the magical Thunder City approached them with a smile. Fellow cultivators, are you here to take part in the bet? Seeing Qin Nan nodding his head, the disciple's smile widened. The VIP hall costs 400 monarch crystals, the guest hall costs 200 monarch crystals, and the ordinary hall costs 100 monarch crystals. What would you like to choose? Saying this, the disciple glanced at the 2 heavenly fortune hounds and the mouse with a grin. These demonic beasts also had to be paid. That expensive? Qin Nan wore a pained expression on his face. The price of the entrance ticket was a lot more expensive than he had expected. However, the magical Thunder City was indeed good at making money, holding a bet every day with a few hundred participants. When the time came, even more people would show up, thus the entrance ticket alone was enough to earn them quite a fortune. If the 2 of you can show us your identity, the fee will be reduced accordingly. For example, if you're an inner sect disciple of a 2-star faction, if you come to our spiritual Thunder City, not only will the entrance ticket be free, even the city lord will personally receive you. As he spoke, the disciple began to put on a fake smile, and a trace of disdain flashed in his eyes. If the monarch crystals were too expensive, it was unlikely that the magical Thunder City would benefit from it. That being said, the disciple had no idea that even though the city lord before him was peerless, he would still feel the pinch just for a few hundred monarch crystals. That works too? That's great, take a look at this badge. Qin Nan's eyes flickered as he took out the peak leader badge of the human peak. That disciple took it with an indifferent expression. He glanced at it casually, but when he saw the ancient dragon characters on it, his pupils suddenly shrank to the size of a needle. The peak leader of the human peak of the Dragon Emperor Court? Chapter 905. A Genius Remembers Love in 1 Second Divided by Little? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 908. The 10-day deadline. The gazes of the cultivators in the hall immediately gathered onto Qin Nan's figure with a hint of astonishment. Accessed. They did not expect Qin Nan to have such a shocking background. In the magical Thunder City, even the disciples of 2-starred factions or inner disciples were rare, let alone the peak leaders of the human peak. How is my identity enough? Qin Nan said with a calm smile. Yes. The disciple collected his thoughts and said with a terrified expression, I was being too ignorant, please forgive me. Before he could finish, Qin Nan waved his hand speechlessly and said, That's fine. I'm asking you, with my identity, can I reduce the price of the monarch crystals? The disciple was stunned. The surrounding cultivators were stunned too. Reduce the price of the monarch crystals? Did this guy only reveal his identity to reduce the price of the monarch crystals by a few hundred? Mister, with your identity, you're considered a VIP of the magical Thunder City. You won't have to pay anything. At that instant, an old voice could be heard. It turned out that the scene had startled the elders. Mister, our city lord has invited you to his residence. What do you think? The elder went up and brought his fists together in a respectful manner. The figures of the surrounding cultivators shuddered upon hearing this. As expected of the peak leader of the human peak of the Dragon Emperor Court, who had startled the city lord within a few breaths' time after arriving, and was even invited to his residence. City lord, huh? Sure. After settling the matter of the monarch crystals, Qin Nan felt relieved. Thus he accepted the invitation without hesitation. He was interested in meeting the city lord who possessed a cultivation of the 8th layer martial ancestor. Read the full article. Know yourself and know your enemy, and you will win every battle. Following this, under the guidance of the elder, Qin Nan and his crew proceeded to the city lord's mansion. The magical Thunder City was a 3-starred faction. To the disciples of the magical Thunder City, the city lord's mansion was like the sect leader's hall. Only the elders and core disciples were allowed to enter. A while later, Qin Nan and his crew entered the city lord's mansion and arrived at a hall. As soon as Qin Nan entered the hall, he raised his eyebrows. At the center of the hall was a purple, thunderous wooden chair, emitting a destructive aura. On the chair sat a middle-aged man wearing a beast hide coat, whose body was emitting the aura of the 8th layer martial progenitor realm. So you're the peak leader of the human peak of the Dragon Emperor Court, Qin Nan? You can just call me City Lord Zhou. City Lord Zhou waved his hand and glanced at Sima Kong, the 2 hounds, and the heavenly fortune mouse, before he calmly said, Cultivator Qin Nan, I believe you know that our magical Thunder City is subordinate to the Heaven Saber sect. Aren't you worried that you're going straight into the tiger's den? Sima Kong was startled hearing this, before he glanced at Qin Nan. Love Go Xiao say Kuai was the city lord picking on them? Qin Nan's expression remained the same as he smilingly said, "City Lord, the magical Thunder City is a place of business. I'm here to have some fun. I believe the magical Thunder City will welcome me, right?" Qin Nan had already expected City Lord Zhou to investigate his identity as soon as he showed the badge to the City Lord. After all, he was one of the disciples being hunted by the Heaven Saber sect, but his cultivation was only at the bronze rank. "Ha!" City Lord Zhou burst out laughing and exclaimed, "What a young hero! That's right, even though our magical Thunder City is subordinate to the Heaven Saber sect, we wouldn't care if you're a bronze-ranked or silver-ranked enemy. That being said, how many monarch crystals have you prepared?" "We don't lack monarch crystals, but it's up to you." Qin Nan's expression remained the same. "Haha, don't worry. In 10 days, 2 law-defying martial Sacred Realm geniuses with second-grade Tian-ranked martial spirits will be challenging each other to a duel. It's going to be the biggest duel we've had in the past few months." City Lord Zhou gave Qin Nan a thoughtful look and said, "I'm looking forward to seeing your performance when the time comes." "I won't let you down," Qin Nan calmly said. City Lord Zhou's intention was very simple. Since Qin Nan was an enemy of the Heaven Saber sect, they would not hold him accountable. However, since Qin Nan had decided to have some fun in the magical Thunder City, it was only right for him to gamble with a huge amount of monarch crystals. If they were only here to watch the fun, then the magical Thunder City would not welcome them. After chatting for a while, Qin Nan cancelled the banquet and left the City Lord's mansion. After chatting for a while, Qin Nan was able to form an impression of City Lord Zhou. He was a person who cared a lot about benefit. "TSK Qin Nan, who would have thought that you're a bronze-ranked target of the Heaven Saber sect? Humph, you're quite bold. What if this City Lord Zhou were to attack us?" Sima Kong could not help but grumble. Qin Nan's plan was too risky. "Let's not talk about that. The duel is about to take place. Let's head over." Qin Nan shook his head. Soon after, they arrived at the hall from before. After revealing their identities, they successfully entered the underground city. "Damn it, this magical Thunder City sure knows how to have fun," Sima Kong could not help but curse after witnessing the scene before him. In front of them was a spacious path, and on both sides of the path were several palaces. The materials, formations, height, etc. of the palaces were clearly different from one another. In addition to that, the VIP palaces were filled with beautiful servants shuttling back and forth. Meanwhile, as the bets were about to begin, many rogue cultivators had already arrived. There were over 100 of them, resulting in a lively scene. "Senior, you're in the VIP palaces, please follow me." Following this, a beautiful servant slowly approached Qin Nan and led the way into the VIP palaces. Not only were they able to observe the huge dojo in the distance from the VIP palaces, the walls were also decorated with various formations, to prevent the shockwaves from the tribulations from reaching them. "Senior, this is the mystical spirit rock. You can place your bets with this rock." The servant handed a rock to Qin Nan and blinked her eyes. "By the way, if you have any special requests, we're willing to fulfill them, including me." The eyes of the two dogs, who were originally uninterested, suddenly lit up, and their expressions became excited. They were quite fond of this place. Sima Kong's face darkened. Did he really have to find 2 more hounds for them? "That won't be necessary." Qin Nan waved his hand. The servant's eyes flickered with disappointment, but she had no choice but to leave. At that instant, following a loud explosion, a figure landed on the spacious dojo in the distance. A 6th-layer martial progenitor realm aura swept the place like a storm, resulting in a shocking sight. Chapter 906. A Genius Remembering Love in 1 Second? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 909 Ancient Royal Worm. Meanwhile, at the City Lord's mansion, almost every book you want to read is available. It's more stable than other websites, and the updates are faster too. It's all written with no advertisements. Access. City Lord, I've just received a report that Qin Nan and his crew have entered the inner city to spectate the bet. Are we really going to let him gamble here? An old man in the hall hesitated. Hee. City Lord Zhou's lips curled upward as he said, let him gamble here. In 10 days, the inner disciples of the Heaven Saber sect will be here to take part in the bet. If this Qin Nan loses a few tens of thousands of monarch crystals, we'll spare his life. If he wins the monarch crystals of our magical Thunder City, we'll tell the disciples of the Heaven Saber sect about his whereabouts and use them to kill him. Since Qin Nan dared to reveal his identity in public, he must have some trump card that he was not afraid of the magical Thunder City. If the disciples of the Heaven Saber sect were willing to help him, it would only bring him benefits. Brilliant, City Lord. The old man's eyes flickered as he exclaimed. As expected of the City Lord, to be able to predict the outcome of Qin Nan's plan. Meanwhile, in the underground city, Qin Nan raised his head and saw an old man standing on the spacious dojo. The old man had black hair and glittering eyes. He was wearing a fiery red robe. Everyone, allow me to introduce myself. I'm the first elder of the magical Thunder City. You can call me Elder Hua. 1. Elder Hua scanned his surroundings and scanned the halls on both sides of the dojo. Let's skip the nonsense and introduce the situation. The participants are 2 first-grade Tian-ranked martial spirits geniuses, both of whom are undefeatable martial sacred realm cultivators. As soon as he finished speaking, 2 whooshing sounds could be heard. The 2 women were standing on both sides of the dojo. It seemed like they were under some kind of seal, suppressing the force of the heavens and earth in their bodies. 2 first-grade Tian-ranked women? F***CK. What a big deal today. TSK. Normally, this level of strength is very rare. Looks like I have to raise the stakes today. Who do you bet on? In the surrounding VIP halls, guest halls and ordinary halls, voices rang out one after another. Qin Nan nodded his head upon seeing this. He had observed the 2 women with his left eye of the divine god of battle and discovered that they had practiced powerful monarch arts. It was obvious that they were from other 2-starred factions. If they were to trigger their tribulations, the force of the heavens and earth they would trigger would be extremely terrifying. These 2 are number 1 and number 2. Elder Hua shouted out loudly, now, let's begin placing our bets. The time limit is half an incense stick. As soon as these words were spoken, the noise in the various halls all quieted down. Clearly, everyone present had begun to place their bets. Qin Nan, who should we place our bets on? Sima Kong's eyes flickered with excitement. He had full confidence in Qin Nan's capabilities, thus he was able to earn monarch crystals for free. Qin Nan glanced at the mystical spirit rock. The odds for number 1 and number 2 were 1 and 1.5 respectively, which indicated that the magical Thunder City was more optimistic about number 2. That being said, number 1 had practiced a lot more monarch arts than number 2. If the tribulation were to take place, number 2 would most likely lose. Let's place our bets on number 2. 5,000 monarch crystals will do. Qin Nan pondered for a moment before placing his bet on the mystical spirit rock. He could have placed a higher bet, but Qin Nan did not want to win too much at once. Otherwise, with City Lord Zhou's personality, he would surely fall out with them. Therefore, they could only keep a low profile for now. They would only place their bets after learning more about the rare artifact of the magical Thunder City. Half the period it took an incense to burn was gone fairly quickly. An uproar broke out in the hall once again as the cultivators discussed their bet. Time's up, let the tribulation battle begin. When Elder Hua, who was hovering in midair, received a message from a certain divine will, his lips curled into a grin. He then hollered out as he performed hand seals. Bang! Below the dojo, a huge formation was activated, emitting a faint glow into the surroundings, which encapsulated the entire dojo in the blink of an eye. This layer of light was used for defense. Break. The two women on the dojo had been waiting for a long time. Their eyes glittered as they performed hand seals. Sacred power circulated and completely broke the seal in their bodies. Bang, bang, bang! At that instant, a tremendous force of the heavens and earth burst out from the two women's bodies and soared into the sky. Countless dark clouds accumulated instantly, which covered a distance of over 100,000 li in just a few breaths' time. Following this, the clouds rapidly shrank and transformed into the illusionary figures of a giant sword and a giant spear. After all, they both possessed first-grade Tian-ranked martial spirits and a cultivation of the undefeatable martial sacred realm. The tribulation they triggered would surely be rare phenomenons. Oh my god, this scene is really a little exciting. Sima Kong could not help but shudder when he felt the shocking aura of the two lightning tribulations. As for the two hounds, they were already lying flat on the ground trembling in fear. The tribulation of the heavens and earth, represented the power of the heavens and earth. In front of it, all living things in the world would naturally feel fear. This was also why the battle of lightning tribulations had attracted so many cultivators. Sometimes they would feel the fear in their bodies and watch the battle between two terrifying lightning tribulations. This was an indescribable feeling of excitement that made them tremble uncontrollably. It's coming. Qin Nan was unaffected. He activated his left eye of the divine god of battle and stared at the sky above the dojo. Bang! At that instant, a silent explosion took place above the dojo, resulting in a transparent ripple. Following this, an invisible force of the heavens and earth crushed down onto the two women's heads like a giant mountain. The two women struggled for a moment against the force of the heavens and earth that was expanding rapidly. However, the force of the heavens and earth gradually calmed down. Crap, the magical Thunder City is well prepared. It's impossible to track the source of the force of the heavens and earth. Qin Nan's expression changed slightly. When he tried to track the source of the force of the heavens and earth, his path was blocked by an invisible force. Qin Nan, are you trying to get your hands on the rare artifact of the magical Thunder City? Why didn't you say so earlier? Let's see what I'm capable of. I can help you track its source. Sima Kong chuckled as if he could read Qin Nan's mind. Qin Nan was startled. These are the ancient royal bugs, specially used by the tribe of the Emperor of Thieves. They can track the source of a treasure by tracking its aura and movement of the heavens and earth. They are usually used to locate the exact location of the treasure, thus making it easier for us to rob it. With a flip of Sima Kong's hand, a few dozen golden ancient insects appeared on his palm. Phew! Sima Kong exhaled softly, and the 10 golden bugs seemed to come alive. They flapped their wings and flew into the sky. As they flew, their bodies became transparent, and no aura was emitted from them. Even with the left eye of the divine god of battle, he could only see a tiny trace of them. In a few days, the ancient royal bugs will find the location of the rare artifact. They will then transmit their findings to me using their psychic art. Sima Kong wore a proud look. Impressive. Qin Nan nodded his head. He could not help but admit that Sima Kong was able to handle anything that was related to the rare artifact. Chapter 907. A Genius Remembering Love in 1 Second? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 910, The Unexpected Occurrence. Chapter 910, The Unexpected Occurrence. Qin Nan turned his head around. Access. On the dojo, a terrifying thunderous sword and a thunderous spear floated in the air while emitting a destructive aura, which felt like it was going to shatter the heavens and earth into pieces. Following this, the two tribulations became infuriated as if they were aware of each other's presence. It was obvious that the two tribulations assumed each other was here to disturb them. Bang! With a deafening explosion, the thunder sword and the thunder spear collided, sending out countless bolts of lightning. Immediately after, an unknown sword art and spear art were displayed. With terrifying speed and terrifying trajectory, they clashed with each other. Booming sounds filled the sky, and even the huge dojo was trembling because of it. The scene before them felt like an apocalyptic battle, causing the cultivators to feel their hair standing on end and their scalps turning numb, but they could not help but feel excited. The place was immersed in an uproar. The human nature in the blood of the cultivators was thoroughly stimulated. The battle between the forces of the heavens and earth, interesting indeed, but Qin Nan's lips curled upward as he summoned the golden seal with a thought. Sima Kong, who was spectating the battle, turned his head around after being aware of something. His eyes could not move away from the seal as his hands began to tremble uncontrollably. As the successor of the Emperor of Thieves, he was extremely familiar with artifacts. However, the golden seal before him had completely shattered his understanding of artifacts. Qin Nan ignored him as he inserted the force of the martial ancestor into the golden seal. At that instant, a mystical force was unleashed, which flew toward the dojo like two giant hands. At that instant, the force of the heavens and earth from the two tribulations was rapidly absorbed. The two women on the dojo were startled, as their eyes flickered with confusion. Why would the force of the tribulations decrease all of a sudden? However, they didn't think too much about it and just assumed that it was the work of the spiritual Thunder City. After a dozen breaths of time, not only did the two women notice it, the surrounding cultivators also noticed it. Although the power of the lightning sword and lightning spear was still terrifying, they had become illusory. We need to stop. Qin Nan shook his head and stopped the golden seal. I only managed to absorb a little bit of the energy of the heavens and earth in this bet. Even if I include the strongest bet in 10 days, the amount of energy I can absorb is still not much. Qin Nan frowned. He could not fully activate the golden seal. Otherwise, not only would it be harmful to the cultivators, it would also cause chaos. In this way, the amount of power of heaven and earth he could absorb was very little. I'll take a look at the rare treasure deep inside the magical Thunder City in a few days' time. If it's necessary, I'll make my move earlier. If not, I'll stay in the magical Thunder City for a while longer. Qin Nan's eyes flickered as he glanced at the dojo. The crowd did not pay too much attention to the tiny change. The battle had reached its climax. The lightning sword and the lightning spear were on par with one another, resulting in a spectacular battle. However, at that instant, the first woman suddenly took out a round crystal from her storage bag and spat out 3 drops of blood from her mouth, causing the crystal to emit a glow. The lightning spear above her grew rapidly as if it was stimulated by something, causing its aura to become even more terrifying than before. You! The second woman's expression changed, and she looked extremely unsightly. Damn it, using a treasure in a fair fight. Shameless! How shameless! F***K. Even though the magical Thunder City doesn't have any rules, no one is allowed to use treasures. A series of curses could be heard. However, following this, a change took place once again. The second woman wore a dark expression as she waved her hand and took out an ancient talisman. She inserted the force of the martial ancestor into the talisman, causing it to burst into flames. The force of the tribulation above her grew rapidly, surpassing that of the first woman. She had long prepared the move, but she had not used it yet as she was waiting for the second woman to make the first move. That way, she would be able to win the battle fair and square. In terms of cunning, the first woman was no match for her. As she thought, not a single cultivator complained. Instead, they all clapped their hands and cheered. This was especially true for the cultivators who had placed their bets on the second woman. They became even more excited. Because from the current situation, the second girl would definitely win. To me, I don't have anything to do with either of you, but in the martial world, the strong preys on the weak. Since I've placed my bet on the second woman, it's reasonable for me to help the first woman win the battle. Qin Nan's eyes flickered. He immediately activated the golden seal with his divine sense. The second woman, who had a smug smile on her face, suddenly had a drastic change in expression. What was going on? Why was the force of her tribulation dropping rapidly? The cultivators at the scene were astounded too. Even Elder Hua, who was on the spectator's stand, had a slight change in expression. The situation today was really too strange. He had only encountered it twice. The first woman's eyes flickered with a glimmer of hope. She immediately provoked her tribulation and tried her best to unleash the full force of her tribulation. What happened next was almost a one-sided battle. The second woman won the battle with her tribulation. The rogue cultivators on the scene burst out cursing. That was because the situation today was truly too strange. Qin Nan, did you use it to control the tribulation? Sima Kong could not help but ask. He did not show any joy on his face. Do you recognize the golden seal? Qin Nan asked curiously. I don't know, but the person who refined it is absolutely unbelievable. Even until now, the method of refining it is still a legend. Even the heaven-shattering martial monarch was unable to achieve such a feat. It's really rare. Sima Kong's eyes were filled with astonishment as he spoke. I don't know the origin of the golden seal either. Qin Nan shook his head. They left the dojo and won the monarch crystals. From today onward, Qin Nan and the others had been waiting for the news from the ancient insect. They also went to the gambling dens to participate in the tribulation battles. That being said, to avoid attracting City Lord Zhou's suspicion, Qin Nan did not keep winning. He lost 3 times in 5 days, but won more in the 2 rounds. He won a total of 15,000 monarch crystals. On this particular day, Qin Nan, there's news from the ancient insect. Sima Kong was overjoyed as he sensed something. Qin Nan's expression froze. Even though he had absorbed a significant amount of force of the heavens and earth over the past few days, it was not enough to make any difference. The news from the ancient insect was more important. Meanwhile, Magical Thunder City, the City Lord's mansion. What's going on? Why is he here? Chapter 908. A Genius Remembers Love in 1 Second? Here's an interesting novel for you to read. C_T. Chapter 911 of The Duel in Advance. Senior, who's coming? The old man was startled. Go here to read a book. Access. You must have heard of Cui Lishu, right? One of the top geniuses of the Heaven Saber sect. City Lord Zhou wore a stern expression as he tapped his finger rhythmically on the wooden chair, as if he was in deep thought. Senior, isn't that a good thing? A hint of doubt appeared in the old man's eyes. It was an honor for someone like Cui Lishu to be here at the Magical Thunder City. He has brought a disciple with him, who is Cui Lishu's younger brother, who possesses a 3rd-grade Tian-ranked martial spirit and a cultivation of the undefeatable martial sacred realm. He wants him to take part in the duel. City Lord Zhou let out a sigh. The old man's expression changed tremendously. Normally, the tribulations of the Magical Thunder City would only be fair if both parties possessed the same rank of martial spirit and cultivation. The strongest genius that the Magical Thunder City had prepared for the duel only possessed a 2nd-grade Tian-ranked martial spirit and a cultivation of the undefeatable martial sacred realm. How was he going to compete with Cui Lishu's brother? Most importantly, they could not reject Cui Lishu's request. Once they rejected it, the consequences would be disastrous for the Magical Thunder City. City Lord Zhou's eyes flickered as a great idea formed in his mind. He blurted out in joy, Haha, the situation isn't as bad as we thought. Quick, send out the message. City Lord Zhou swiftly made the arrangements. As for Qin Nan, he had completely forgotten about him. Meanwhile, in a residence in the magical Thunder City, the two hounds carefully flipped through a few ancient books. After being taught a lesson by the heavenly fortune mouse a few days ago, they realized how weak they were. They believed that their lives should not be like this, and that they should live their lives to the fullest. As such, they had made up their minds to learn monarch arts. Monarch arts couldn't be taught to the hounds? Damn it, they would invent their own monarch art then. Endless coming, the 3 dreams of the Emperor Liang, with the monarch seal, no one dares to disobey. Sima Kong sat with his legs crossed and murmured ancient words with a stern expression. The Emperor of Thieves' seal on his forehead emitted a faint golden glow. Go to read a book, unparalleled divine ability, heart connection, appear. Sima Kong suddenly let out a roar and pointed his finger at the void. Whoosh! Following this, a strange light screen appeared. Within the light screen was a pitch-black wall covered in the glow of a forbidding aura. This is what the ancient Emperor Beamworm saw when it entered the depths of the magical Thunder City with the force of heaven and earth. Sima Kong said. Qin Nan nodded and stared at the screen seriously. The scene on the screen continued to change. After exiting the first wall, more than 10 walls appeared behind it. Each wall was guarded by 2 peak martial Sacred Realm disciples in addition to various forbidding auras. The defense of the spiritual Thunder City is really tight, Qin Nan said to himself. Immediately afterward, the wall on the light screen disappeared and was replaced by a small palace. The small palace was a half-martial monarch weapon. It floated deep within the magical Thunder City, surrounded by powerful formations and a strong monarch aura. However, none of the formations were effective against the ancient Emperor Beamworm. Soon, the scene inside the palace was displayed on the screen. This is Qin Nan's eyes widened. Inside the palace there was a strange small altar. On the altar there was a huge purple crystal, which was emitting a shocking amount of the power of heaven and earth. Above the crystal, there was a strange and mysterious seal. Wasn't this bind one of the 3 treasures left by the heaven-breaking emperor? TSK, so it's the heavenly mystic crystal. The crystal contains a powerful and pure force of the heavens and earth. Once activated, it can suppress the tribulation. No wonder the magical Thunder City is holding a tribulation battle, it's because of this treasure. Sima Kong let out a sigh and said, But Qin Nan, I now understand why you're left. I couldn't peek inside. Firstly, there are too many forbidding auras. Secondly, it's because of the altar. Thirdly, and most importantly, it's because of this mysterious bind which is able to nullify all eye technique. The only thing is, what exactly is this mysterious bind? As the successor of the Emperor of Thieves, he was able to identify the reason behind it with his sharp eyes. Meanwhile, Qin Nan's eyes flickered with excitement as his breathing intensified. The mysterious bind, one of the 2 remaining treasures left by the heaven-breaking Emperor. The heavenly arcane crystal contained a tremendous amount of force of the heavens and earth, which was perfect for his golden seal to absorb. Although it was not enough to fill the golden seal, it was enough to form a powerful tribulation, allowing his cultivation to improve by a level. These 2 treasures were extremely useful for Qin Nan. Qin Nan, what's wrong with you? Sima Kong raised his eyebrows. It was rare for him to see Qin Nan lose his composure. Sima Kong. Qin Nan collected his thoughts and took a deep breath before he asked in a serious tone, How powerful are the defenses of the magical Thunder City? With your skills, do you think you can sneak in and take the item out? What nonsense are you talking about? Sima Kong rolled his eyes and said in a prideful tone, The defenses of the magical Thunder City are the most typical defense of a city-type faction. The overlapping walls are like 1,000 mountains, while the half-monarch weapon in the middle is able to nullify everything. It's not like a giant like the Shadow City, thus I can easily retrieve the treasures. Upon saying this, Sima Kong paused for a moment before he chuckled. However, there's still a problem. Before I make my move, I'll need to divert the attention of the third-layer martial ancestor of the magical Thunder City. Otherwise, we'll only have 10 breaths time to escape once we've retrieved the treasures. 10 breaths time? Qin Nan furrowed his brows. In other words, if they failed to divert the attention of the experts of the magical Thunder City, they would not be able to escape. The reason being that they would have to face all the experts of the magical Thunder City. 10 breaths time was nowhere enough. What if I'm able to divert their attention? Qin Nan's eyes flickered. If that's the case, we'll have the period it takes an incense to burn to escape. Sima Kong said in a low voice. This period is enough for us to head to the middle sector city and leave with the formation. It'll be difficult for them to discover our presence. The period it takes an incense to burn? Qin Nan's eyes squinted slightly. A thought immediately formed in his mind. It was very simple to divert the attention of the expert. He could simply display his strength during the duel between the two geniuses of the magical Thunder City, which would surely attract their attention. However, the plan was extremely dangerous. If anything went wrong, Qin Nan would not be able to escape from the magical Thunder City. Let's wait a little longer. 5 days later, we'll make a scene, Qin Nan said in a low voice. However, at that instant, the VIP badge of the magical Thunder City in Qin Nan's hand suddenly emitted a glow. Qin Nan was startled, before he inspected the badge with his divine sense. The news was from the magical Thunder City. Tomorrow afternoon, a third-grade Tian-ranked martial spirit genius of the Heaven Saber sect with a cultivation of the undefeatable martial sacred realm will face off against 3 second-grade Tian-ranked martial spirits and undefeatable martial sacred realm geniuses. This will be the biggest duel in the history of the magical Thunder City. Fellow cultivators are welcome to join us. In addition to that, when Qin Nan received the news, the badges of the cultivators who had participated in the tribulations of the magical Thunder City lit up. They subconsciously inspected the badges with their divine sense, and were astounded. Chapter 909. A Genius Remembering Love in 1 Second Go? Shua.net provides you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 912. The Meeting of Foes. What? A third-grade Tian-ranked genius fighting against 3 second-grade Tian-ranked geniuses? Gasp, the magical Thunder City is going all out this time. It's rare to see something like this in the past. Let's go. We have to go. How could we miss out on such a grand occasion? TSK, even if we could just watch the battle, it would be incredibly beneficial to our martial heart. It seems like we have to pay the magical Thunder City a visit. Ha ha ha, quick, transmit your voice to Master. He loves to watch such a grand occasion. At that instant, the cultivators who were fond of gambling in the magical Thunder City could not wait any longer, and immediately made their way to the magical Thunder City. To read a book, please go here. As for the magical Thunder City, it was immersed in an uproar. In the residence, Sima Kong's eyes flickered with excitement as he learned the truth. Qin Nan, here's your chance. Tomorrow will definitely be a big event. If you make a big commotion, it won't be a problem to attract the attention of all the experts. You're right. Qin Nan nodded as his eyes flickered. The difference between a breath's time and the time it took for an incense to burn was like the difference between the heavens and the earth. The sudden change in the magical Thunder City was a great opportunity for them. It was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Sima Kong, remember, the weakness of the formation of the first door is the 2 stars at the top left corner. The weakness of the second door is in the middle. Qin Nan blurted out after making up his mind. Even though the defensive formation of the magical Thunder City was powerful, it was nowhere enough. Even through the barrier, Qin Nan was aware of it. Advertisement. Got it? Sima Kong nodded. Following this, the two sat down with their legs crossed and began to rest their mind. Even though the two hounds were flipping through the ancient books while the heavenly fortune mouse was playing with the leaves, they could feel a great pressure lingering in the air. It was extremely dangerous for Qin Nan to attract the attention of the experts, or for Sima Kong to interfere. If anything were to go wrong, it would attract the attention of City Lord Zhou or the other experts, resulting in unimaginable consequences. Time passed in the blink of an eye. The next morning, the entire magical Thunder City was no longer as lively as before. The sounds of chatting and the sighs of exclamations caused by the arrival of experts rose and fell with each other. Time's up, come with me. Qin Nan opened his eyes and exhaled deeply. He rose from the ground and left the residence with the two hounds and one mouse, without glancing at Sima Kong. He had enough confidence in Sima Kong. Naturally, he would not say anything more and increase the pressure. Why are there so many experts here? As they arrived at the palace, Qin Nan scanned the crowd and his eyes flickered with astonishment. There were around 200 people here, but 2 of them had reached the 7th-layer martial ancestor realm, 3 had reached the 5th-layer martial ancestor realm, 9 had reached the 2nd-layer martial ancestor realm, and most of them were peak martial sacred realm cultivators. Besides, this was only the beginning. How many experts would show up when the Battle of the Tribulations began? The more experts there are, the more unfavorable it will be for me. It seems like I should make it as big as possible to attract everyone's attention. Qin Nan squinted and entered the palace after making up his mind. Despite the grand scene, Qin Nan was still a VIP, thus he was allowed to enter without paying the entrance fee. Inside the city, the ordinary halls and the VIP halls were already crowded with people. Countless servants of the magical Thunder City were shuttling back and forth, serving dishes and drinks to the guests. The place was bustling with activity. Qin Nan headed toward one of the VIP palaces. However, just as the servant girl arrived before him and was about to receive him, a sudden change occurred. "Who's that?" Gasp, City Lord Zhou is escorting him in person. Who is this young man? Holy crap! Apart from City Lord Zhou, the 2nd Elder, the 3rd Elder, and the 4th Elder are here too, and 2 inner disciples of the Heaven Saber sect are following him too. Why is there such a grand scene? Are the core disciples of the Heaven Saber sect here? A series of astounded voices could be heard. The cultivators on the spacious street, including the VIP palaces and the ordinary palaces, were attracted by the scene. The core disciples of the Heaven Saber sect were here? Qin Nan frowned slightly and turned his head around. On the other side of the street stood a young man carrying 3 ancient swords on his back. He placed his hands behind him and slowly walked toward Qin Nan with a prideful look on his face. The half-monarch weapon robe he was wearing was emitting wisps of monarch aura. Behind him were 2 inner disciples of the Heaven Saber sect, whose strength was on par with Duan Ren's. In fact, they were slightly stronger than him. The rest were City Lord Zhou and the others, resulting in a huge group. At that instant, everyone's attention was focused on the extraordinary young man, whose aura felt like an emperor had arrived. Qin Nan was quite familiar with the young man. He was none other than Cui Lishu, whom he had met once during the monarch ranking trial. Why would he be here? Qin Nan was startled before he squinted. Initially, he was planning to avoid Cui Lishu, but on second thought, it seemed like Cui Lishu's presence would be a great help to his plan. What are you doing here? Move aside at once. At that instant, a snap could be heard, which turned out to be one of the inner disciples of the Heaven Saber sect standing behind Cui Lishu. He immediately spoke when he saw the crowd moving aside while Qin Nan remained unmoved. Qin Nan. City Lord Zhou and the others were startled. Their eyes flickered coldly as they unleashed the force of the martial ancestor in their palms. They had been busy preparing for the tribulation yesterday, thus they had completely forgotten about this guy. The surrounding experts also revealed a hint of surprise in their eyes. This young man was quite daring, not taking the initiative to move aside. Qin Nan? Why are you here? Cui Lishu turned around and his eyes widened the moment he saw Qin Nan. The prideful grin on his face instantly disappeared, as if he had just eaten something disgusting, causing him to wear an unpleasant expression. If the person that Cui Lishu hated the most, Tang Qingshan, who had been opposing him recently, was ranked second, only Qin Nan was ranked first. Whenever he saw Qin Nan, he would uncontrollably recall the scene at the touring dojo. Be it the top 3 geniuses of the monarch ranking or the reward of the monarch crystals, they were all nightmares to him. Chapter 9-10. A genius will remember love in 1 second? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 9-13. The bet begins. The cultivators nearby were astounded, as they did not expect the young man before them to be acquainted with the young man with an extraordinary background. Accessed. Cultivator Cui, are you not happy to see me? Qin Nan said with a calm smile, as if he was unaware of Cui Lishu's reaction. Cui Lishu's figure shuddered hearing this, as he almost burst out cursing. Wasn't this question a load of nonsense? How was that possible? He was simply disgusted to the extreme. Senior brother, should we get rid of him? I remember this Qin Nan is a bronze-ranked enemy of our Heaven Saber sect. 2 inner disciples immediately transmitted their voice to Cui Lishu after observing his reaction. That won't be necessary. Cui Lishu took a deep breath. He knew that the top 3 geniuses on the monarch ranking were quite close with Qin Nan. Even though he was disgusted by Qin Nan, he would not harm him recklessly, nor would he be involved in the bet. It would be a great loss if he ended up offending the top 3 geniuses. After all, this Qin Nan only possessed a first-grade Tian-ranked martial spirit, thus he would not be able to do anything for long. Cui Lishu felt much better after having this thought, who let out a laugh and said, "Of course I'm not unhappy, I just didn't expect it to happen. Are you here for a bet? Are you interested in joining us?" As he spoke, his eyes flashed with a bright light. Even if he did not kill Qin Nan, he would not mind setting a trap for Qin Nan. Love go little say ku, sure. Qin Nan immediately nodded. Even if Cui Lishu had not mentioned it, he would have followed them too. City Lord Zhou and the others exchanged glances with one another. They clearly felt that the relationship between Cui Lishu and Qin Nan was not friendly at all, but all of a sudden, while they were confused, a thought was transmitted into their minds, causing City Lord Zhou and the others to come to a realization. So this was what Cui Lishu had in mind. City Lord Zhou and the others stared at Qin Nan with a grin on their faces. Full text reading soon. Qin Nan and Cui Lishu led the crowd to the Hall of Supremacy. The room was more than 10 times bigger than the usual ones. It was filled with a pleasant fragrance. It was located at a great location, allowing them to observe the entire dojo. City Lord Zhou stood up and said, "Junior brother Cui, fellow Taoist Qin, I've just given the order. The tribulation battle is about to begin. Please wait for a moment." Then, a row of beautiful women walked in. They were singing and dancing beautifully, and they were so beautiful that one couldn't help but be attracted to them. Under normal circumstances, Cui Lishu might have been interested, but today, Qin Nan was here. He had to see Qin Nan suffer at least once. In less than half the period it took an incense to burn, a loud explosion took place on the dojo. The lively halls fell silent instantly, as a few thousand pairs of eyes glanced toward the center of the dojo. The main event was about to begin. Everyone, let's get straight to the point. The second elder of the magical Thunder City floated in the air and said with a thunderous voice, "The participants are the outer disciple of the Heaven Saber sect, Chui Hao. On the other hand, they are Lei Yi, Lei Air, and Lei San from a two-starred faction. The odds are 1.5 to 1. I'll give you the period it takes an incense to burn to place your bets." Following this, the entire dojo was immersed in an uproar. "I'll bet on Lei Yi and the others." Of course. Even though the difference between a third-grade Tian ranked martial spirit and a second-grade Tian ranked martial spirit is huge, there are 3 of them in total. "Haha, I'll bet on Chui Hao." Most of the cultivators were betting on Lei Yi and the others. Chui Lishu's eyes flickered with satisfaction when he heard this. He turned toward Qin Nan and said with a grin, "Friend Qin Nan, I forgot to mention, the one taking part in the competition is my brother. Why don't we have a bet and see who's going to win?" After a brief pause, Chui Lishu continued, "Of course, as the elder brother, I'll bet on my brother, right? What do you think?" The explanation was reasonable, thus the crowd could not find fault with it. "Oh? How are we going to play?" Qin Nan seemed to be intrigued. The eyes of City Lord Zhou and the others flickered upon seeing this, but they remained silent. Chui Lishu chuckled, "Not much, let's have a small bet. What do you think about 70,000 monarch crystals?" Even though Qin Nan had prepared himself mentally, he could not help but raise his eyebrows. This Chui Lishu was really good at pretending. Even with his extraordinary status in the Heaven Saber sect, he would not say it so casually, right? Seeing that Qin Nan remained silent, Chui Lishu immediately mocked. "What is it? The peak leader of the human peak can't even afford 70,000 monarch crystals?" City Lord Zhou's eyes turned cold as he said, "Friend Qin Nan, it seems like you've been boasting in front of me a few days ago. I hate it when people lie to me." Saying this, the 8th layer martial ancestor's aura was vaguely unleashed from his body. 70,000 monarch crystals, right? If you're so interested, 70,000 monarch crystals it is. Qin Nan took a deep breath and said with a stern expression. It was as if 70,000 monarch crystals were a huge sum to him. This guy had been tricked. The eyes of Chui Lishu and City Lord Zhou flickered with smiles. Now, all they had to do was to wait for the result to give Qin Nan a great shock. "Sima Kong is making his move." Qin Nan glanced at the message on his badge with a calm expression. It was too obvious that Chui Lishu, City Lord Zhou, and the others were trying to set him up. However, Qin Nan was different from the others, thus there was no need for him to be afraid. His only concern now was how to make the situation worse. As Qin Nan was immersed in his thoughts, the time limit for placing bets had passed. 4 powerful auras descended from the sky. The first person to appear was a young man in a white robe, holding a giant saber in his hand. His face was filled with a prideful expression as the force of the heavens and earth was vaguely emitted from his body. Opposite him were 3 young men wearing masks with extraordinary auras. "The battle begins." The elder in the air gave the order without hesitation. Bang! At that instant, as soon as the 4 seals were removed, 4 shocking auras were unleashed, which soared into the sky with shocking auras. Even before the tribulation appeared, the atmosphere and the surroundings had become extremely oppressive. The 2 hounds and 1 mouse in the supreme compartment were given a great scare, who immediately turned their heads around. At that instant, everyone's gaze was fixed onto the dojo. Whoosh! It was as if a magnificent heavenly river had been opened up in the sky, as countless streams of force of the heavens and earth surged toward the dojo. Even with the activation of the formation, the dojo began to shake vigorously. Terrifying dark clouds instantly swept the place, causing the surroundings to be plunged into darkness. Bang! Countless rays of lightning burst out from the dojo, causing the surroundings to turn pale white. A destructive aura swept the place like a storm, as if the place had been teleported to a world of lightning. P.S. I posted a request for leave of absence yesterday, but the editor did not approve it, as the request for leave of absence was charged. The bug has yet to be resolved. In order to let more readers see it, the monster will repeat himself. This time, the monster and a few other authors are taking part in the Provincial Writers Association meeting, and the association will be conducting a trial for the monster. For me, it's an important event in my life, as joining the Provincial Writers Association means that my hard work over the past few years has been acknowledged. Therefore, I will be accompanying the leaders and the authors. I'm sure you all understand. Don't worry, after this, I'll make up for all the missing chapters. Chapter 9-11. A Genius Remembers Love in 1 Second Divided by Little? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 9-14. Another 100,000 betten. The eyes of everyone present, a look of astonishment appeared on their faces. Please go to the booklet. -79. The sight before them gave them a great shock. How am I supposed to get them? How am I supposed to absorb their thunder tribulations? Or should I absorb and release them? Or create an eerie atmosphere? Or could it be? Only Chin Nan was immersed in his thoughts after glancing at the tribulation. It would take some time for Sima Kong to retrieve the treasure. Not only would he need to create a great disturbance, he would also need to attract everyone's attention, which was quite troublesome. Let's wait a little longer, when the outcome of the tribulations is decided, and when Sima Kong arrives at the treasure, I'll decide according to the situation. Chin Nan shook his head to clear his thoughts. He glanced at the dojo. Meanwhile, the tribulations had taken shape. A thunderous sword, a thunderous spear, and 2 thunderous sabers emitted formidable auras, which were significantly stronger than the previous cultivators. It was especially so for Chui Hao's lightning sword. It was covered with countless patterns of fiend gods, and it emanated a vast pressure that suppressed the auras of the other 3 tribulation lightning phenomena. This was the difference between a grade of martial spirit and martial spirit. Kill them all! At that instant, Chui Hao uttered a roar. The thunderous sword in the sky was aware of the presence of the 3 tribulations. It lashed out with a terrifying sword intent, which summoned illusionary figures of deities and demons. The 3 tribulations seemed to be aware of the situation they were in. They immediately joined forces to resist the attack. One attack after another was executed continuously, like a raging storm. Countless sword intents, saber intents, and spear intents were unleashed, causing the spacious dojo to tremble vigorously. Cracks began to appear on the dojo, which rapidly spread in all directions. All the cultivators could not help but immerse themselves in the process. They were as tense as a piece of iron, not daring to relax in the slightest. Meanwhile, the 3 geniuses opposite Chui Hao exchanged glances with one another and executed various artifacts and ancient monarch arts to strengthen the power of the tribulations. Chui Hao sneered, his hands suddenly forming a seal. Both sides were strengthening their lightning tribulations. The reason being that this tribulation battle was extremely important. Even if they had to resort to despicable means to obtain victory, they would not hesitate to do so. However, to everyone's surprise, a chubby figure in the magical Thunder City had executed a magical monarch art, allowing him to disappear into thin air and sneak into the city. He then opened several ancient doors with ease, evading the guards that were guarding the place. Time passed slowly. Within the city, the lightning tribulation was getting stronger and stronger. The battle became fiercer and fiercer. Chui Hao and the 3 great geniuses schemed against each other, and the methods they used were endless. It could be said to be brilliant, and people couldn't help but praise it. At that instant, it was as if the two sabers and one spear had reached a consensus, as they took up 3 different positions, forming a formation, allowing the endless saber intent and spear intent to merge together and attack the giant thunderous sword. Rumble! With a loud boom, the huge lightning sword was forced to retreat. Cui Hao's expression changed drastically as well. He quickly formed hand seals, but he was still unable to turn the situation around. Damn it! F***K. The 3 tribulations are able to communicate with one another like this. F***K. Cui Hao is going to lose for sure. I even bet 3,000 monarch crystals on him. Ha! Well done, 3 great geniuses. Following this, countless cries of joy and disappointment could be heard. Cui Lishu let out a smile and glanced at Qin Nan before bringing his fists together. Congratulations, friend Qin Nan. It seems like you're going to win the bet. I've indeed won. Qin Nan nodded without being humble. Cui Lishu, City Lord Zhou, and the others could feel their lips twitching. Cui Lishu took a deep breath before a sudden thought crossed his mind. Since friend Qin Nan is so confident, why don't we raise the stakes a little? The battle isn't over yet. I believe Cui Hao will surely win the bet. Again? Qin Nan raised his eyebrows. He was still trying to figure out a way to stir up some trouble, but Cui Lishu had taken the initiative to do so. If that's the case, I'll raise the stakes by 100,000 monarch crystals, Qin Nan said without mercy. 100,000 monarch crystals? Cui Lishu, City Lord Zhou, and the others stared with their eyes open wide. Was this guy out of his mind? Including the 70,000 monarch crystals he had just bet, he now had a total of 170,000 monarch crystals. Such a huge sum of money was actually all bet on a single bet? Besides, anyone with a little bit of intelligence would be able to tell that Cui Lishu was only trying to set up a trap. Could it be that Qin Nan had some trick up his sleeves that would guarantee his victory? At that instant, Cui Lishu was doubtful. What now? Cui Lishu, who's ranked 500th on the monarch ranking, is scared of a mere bet? That's very disappointing. Qin Nan did not show any mercy as he continued to stab the man in the back. Cui Lishu's expression changed as anger rose in his heart. What he hated the most in his life was others looking down on him. Junior brother Cui, this guy must be aware of our scheme. He must have some trick up his sleeve to let them win. Otherwise, he wouldn't be so reckless. However, don't you worry, no one knows that I can control the force of the heavens and earth. City Lord Zhou's eyes flickered as he transmitted his voice. The so-called fairness was nothing but nonsense. He would surely be able to control the outcome of the tribulation. Otherwise, wouldn't he suffer a huge loss? Great idea. Cui Lishu's eyes flickered. He did not expect the city lord to have such a trick up his sleeve. Isn't it just 100,000 monarch crystals? Let's raise the stakes by 100,000. Cui Lishu waved his hand in a generous manner. Great. Qin Nan clapped his hands as if he were sincerely complimenting. Cui Lishu, City Lord Zhou, and the others uttered hollow laughs in their hearts. Since both sides had their trump cards, it was time to see whose trump card was stronger. Just a while more, Qin Nan ignored them and continued to read the message from the badge. Time trickled by. The battle continued. Cui Hao was struggling to catch his breath, and was on the verge of losing the battle. Sima Kong's figure broke through the formations like a phantom and proceeded downward at a rapid pace. Finally, after the period it took half an incense to burn, Qin Nan clenched his fists tightly. According to the news, Sima Kong had arrived at the central hall of the city. Now, it was time for him to make his move. Qin Nan rose from the ground, giving the 2 hounds and 1 mouse a great fright. Even Cui Lishu and City Lord Zhou were stunned. What was Qin Nan trying to do? How can I be the only one enjoying myself in such a huge gamble? I shall let the cultivators here witness how I'm going to win 170,000 monarch crystals. Qin Nan's gaze sharpened as his figure unleashed an imperious aura, as if he was confident of winning the battle. Following this, he uttered a thunderous roar. Fellow cultivators, Cui Lishu and I placed a bet of 70,000 monarch crystals at the start of the battle, and now, he narrated the entire matter in detail. The cultivators in the palaces were stunned at first, but as they gradually learned the truth, their faces were filled with astonishment. F***K. Chapter 9:12. A Genius Remembering Love in 1 Second? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 9:15. Fooling the crowd, is he out of his mind? That's insane. 170,000, that's 170,000. Who exactly is he to be so powerful? Doesn't that mean the person who bet on Cui Hao is going to lose? Could it be that there's still a chance? Interesting. How interesting. Who would have thought it would come to this? Countless voices could be heard. Dollar, cotton, flour, candy, shao, shua. That was fast. In the blink of an eye, the crowd's attention was attracted by Qin Nan's words. Cui Lishu, City Lord Zhou, and the others did not expect Qin Nan to do so all of a sudden. When they collected their thoughts, Cui Lishu's expression darkened. How nice of this Qin Nan! Asking the crowd to celebrate with him? That was simply wishful thinking. Humph, celebrating with the crowd? Not a bad idea. Qin Nan, let's see who's going to win. Cui Lishu rose from the ground and transmitted his voice. On the dojo. Cui Hao, who had been knocked back, suddenly came to a stop as a ferocious grin appeared on his face. A terrifying aura was unleashed, causing the thunderous sword above him to grow rapidly, which surpassed the 2 sabers and 1 spear in the blink of an eye. Bang! The thunderous sword above Cui Hao lashed out ferociously, emitting streams of sword intent that shattered the invisible formation of the 2 sabers and 1 spear. At the same time, the 3 tribulations were knocked back by the slash. All the rogue cultivators present were shocked by his words. Obviously, they did not expect Cui Hao to turn the tables around in the blink of an eye. Cui Lishu's lips curled upward seeing this. Advertisement. They had already prepared themselves before coming here. Otherwise, they would not have dared to bet 70,000. City Lord Zhou, please take action and defeat the 3 heavenly tribulations in one go. Cui Lishu transmitted his voice to City Lord Zhou. All right. City Lord Zhou's lips curled upward as he glanced at Qin Nan. He transmitted his thought and activated the rare artifact in the palace deep inside the city. In the blink of an eye, the power of the heavens and earth in the skies started to gather together and bore down on the tribulations of the 3 geniuses. The trick was extremely obscure. Unless one possessed a remarkable eye technique like Qin Nan's, it would be difficult to notice it. The expressions of the 3 geniuses on the dojo changed drastically. The Thunder Sword was already strong enough, but they didn't expect their tribulations to be weakened by so much for no reason at this time. Boom, boom, boom. The Thunder Sword continued to slash out, and its momentum became more and more ferocious. The 3 lightning tribulations continued to tremble and cracks began to appear on them. What was originally a vast and majestic battle was actually about to be decided in an instant under the control of someone with intentions. F***CK. The 3 geniuses are going to lose. This Cui Hao is hiding too much. That guy who spoke just then is going to lose 170,000 monarch crystals. Even a core disciple of a 2-starred faction would not dare to lose so much. If it was me, I would rather die. Sigh. Countless sighs and gloating voices could be heard simultaneously. The surroundings were immersed in an unimaginable uproar. They were extremely excited to witness the outcome of a bet worth 170,000 monarch crystals, and the shocking battle between the tribulations. Ha! Seeing this, Cui Lishu, City Lord Zhou, and the others burst out laughing. Their gazes toward Qin Nan were filled with joy and disdain. The outcome had been decided. Even if you had some tricks up your sleeves, there was no way you could turn the tables around. Cui Lishu, in particular, was able to vent the anger in his heart after seeing Qin Nan being defeated in such a miserable manner. His face was flushed with joy as if spring had arrived. Qin Nan, hurry up, hand over your 170,000 monarch crystals. Cui Lishu stepped forward and stared down at Qin Nan in a menacing manner. However, before he could finish, a calm grin appeared on Qin Nan's face. Who says you've won? Hearing this, Cui Lishu, City Lord Zhou, and the others were stunned before they were enraged. This guy was still not willing to admit his loss under such circumstances. Was he trying to go back on his words? Before Cui Lishu and the others could unleash their anger, they immediately turned around and glanced toward the dojo as they became aware of something. In addition to them, the cultivators at the scene were staring at the dojo too. For some reason, Cui Hao's formidable tribulation sword suddenly began to dissipate rapidly. In the blink of an eye, it had shrunk to half of its original size, as its power was completely gone. On the other hand, the tribulations of the three geniuses grew even more terrifying. This. Cui Lishu and the rest of the crowd were dumbfounded upon seeing this. They almost doubted their own eyes. What was going on? Why would the tribulation sword shrink so much, and the tribulations of the three geniuses grow so much stronger all of a sudden? The ones who were the most confused were the three great geniuses. Their faces were filled with confusion. They did not have any other tricks up their sleeves. How did the tables turn so quickly? Cui Lishu, tell me, who's the winner? Qin Nan said calmly in the supreme compartment. Cui Lishu, City Lord Zhou, and the rest of the elders and disciples stared at the dojo in disbelief after hearing Qin Nan's words. At that instant, a rare occurrence took place once again. The force of the tribulation above the three geniuses weakened rapidly, while the force of the tribulation above Cui Hao grew stronger. The tables had turned once again. This, Cui Lishu, City Lord Zhou, and the others were dumbfounded. The crowd was dumbfounded too. How did it return to normal all of a sudden? Could it be that what happened just now was just an inexplicable coincidence? Phew! Cui Lishu stared at the tribulation for a while. He let out a sigh after confirming that the tribulation remained the same. He harumphed and said, Qin Nan, I don't know what happened, but the outcome is still the same. No one had explained the strange phenomenon. However, Cui Lishu did not care. It was enough as long as they won the duel. City Lord Zhou and the others let out relieved sighs upon realizing this too. However, before he could finish his sentence, he saw a pleasant surprise. In less than 60 breaths' time, the tribulations above Cui Hao and the three geniuses weakened once again, while the tribulations above them grew stronger once again. It was as if their tribulations were under the control of an invisible hand. Whoever it wanted to be stronger would be stronger. Cui Lishu, City Lord Zhou, and the rest of the crowd were dumbfounded. It could be explained as a coincidence. Chapter 9:13. Geniuses remember love in 1 second divided by little? Here's an interesting novel for you to read. C_T. Chapter 916, Causing a Scene. It was the first time the dojo fell silent since the magical Thunder City had held the tribulation battle. It was so quiet that even the sound of a pin dropping to the ground could be heard. A love go little say, Chu, please go to read this book. That was fast. The reason for that was because the scene before them was simply too strange. It had surpassed everyone's understanding. Qin Nan, did you do this? City Lord Zhou and the others collected their thoughts and turned their heads toward Qin Nan before they yelled. Qin Nan's actions were the most suspicious in the entire tribulation battle. Hee, City Lord Zhou, would I still be here with you if I had the ability to do so? I haven't settled the score with you for using the artifact to suppress the tribulations of the three geniuses, and you dare to come knocking on my door? Qin Nan said coldly. City Lord Zhou and the others shuddered. On second thought, it was impossible for a mere Qin Nan to possess such an ability to control the tribulation. Could it be that in the dark, there was a terrifying powerhouse who was controlling the lightning tribulation? As soon as the thought crossed their minds, they believed it to be the case. Crap! All of a sudden, Cui Lishu's face paled. What's going on? City Lord Zhou and the others raised their heads. Following a glimpse, their expressions changed tremendously. They could only see the four tribulations flying toward their Supreme Being rooms at a rapid pace, as if they were being controlled by a giant hand, as if they were trying to destroy them completely. A love go little say, Chu F **K. Run! Something's wrong. Let's go. Damn it, what's going on here? The cultivators in the other halls also woke up from their stupor and hurriedly cast spells to defend themselves. All experts of the magical Thunder City. City Lord Zhou yelled as he transmitted his voice to the experts of the magical Thunder City. The experts of the magical Thunder City quickly rose into the sky. There are almost all the books you want to read. It's much more stable than the average website, and the updates are faster. It's all text without advertisement. At this moment, the formations on the dojo and the hall were activated, emitting a brilliant glow. Countless cultivators quickly fled towards the exit, not daring to stay for even a moment longer. Voices rose and fell throughout the entire scene. It was extremely noisy, and it was a complete mess. Damn it! Damn it! Bastard! Governor Zhou and the other martial ancestor realm elders were cursing loudly as they tried to stop the thunder trial. Their faces were extremely gloomy. Now, not only did they have to use all of their strength to resist the lightning tribulation, but they also had to use all of their strength to resist it. Once the incident was settled, it would most likely bring a great impact to the magical Thunder City. After all, the lightning tribulation battle had suddenly become so strange. The other experts who had come to participate would definitely ask for compensation from them. That would be an extremely shocking amount. Sima Kong only needs 3 breaths time? That's great. Qin Nan glanced at the badge and patted the 2 hounds and 1 hound. He glanced at the 4 tribulations in the sky and activated the golden seal once again. As for Cui Lishu and his crew, they had already fled for their lives. Bang bang bang, the deafening roar of the tribulation suddenly came to a stop, and the destructive aura disappeared in an instant. City Lord Zhou and the others who were activating the formation, as well as the countless experts who were leaving below, were all stunned. The tribulation had disappeared into thin air? What was going on? Could it be that there was someone in this world who could suck them away? It's fine that it's gone. City Lord Zhou let out a relieved sigh. After all, it would take them a great effort to stop the tribulation. City Lord, this is bad. This is bad. At that instant, an elder with a cultivation of the peak martial sacred realm hurried toward them and said, The tribulation has appeared above the magical Thunder City. What? City Lord Zhou and the others stared with their eyes open wide, as if they had just been struck by lightning. Meanwhile, the sky above the magical Thunder City turned dark all of a sudden, as a terrifying storm swept the surroundings. A sword, a spear, and 2 sabers floated in the air while emitting a shocking force that descended upon the city. It was as if they were trying to destroy the city. F***K me. What's going on? Is someone targeting the magical Thunder City? Cut the crap. Attack at once. Otherwise, we're all going to die here today. Damn it. The cultivators who were trying to escape wore gloomy looks on their faces. They immediately took out their monarch arts and artifacts, which turned into colorful rays that fired into the sky. Activate the formation of the city. Resist the tribulation. City Lord Zhou descended from the sky and uttered a roar as he fully unleashed the force of the martial ancestor. The entire magical Thunder City was engulfed in glows, which transformed into a giant shield protecting the city from the tribulation. The strength of the tribulation was extremely terrifying, not to mention that there were 4 tribulations, which were even more terrifying when they were combined. Furthermore, for some reason, the 4 tribulations were extremely agile all of a sudden, as if they were able to see through the attacks of the cultivators, allowing them to dodge the attacks. In an instant, countless sounds of explosions rang out incessantly. Every single cultivator who had arrived was trapped in the spiritual Thunder City. Every single expert's attention was focused on resisting the lightning tribulations. Only a small residence. Qin Nan's left eye emitted a purple glow as he stared at the tribulation and the cultivators in the sky while uttering with his divine sense, upper left, lower right, 36 attacks coming from behind, dodge them all. He was the one who was currently controlling the lightning tribulation and fighting against the group of heroes. That being said, he was only trying to attract the attention of the cultivators. Apart from using the 4 tribulations to focus on Cui Lishu, he did not kill any of the cultivators. Time gradually passed. The battle was intense. Beads of sweat began to roll down Qin Nan's forehead as his body began to tremble. The 4 tribulations were powerful, and his left eye allowed him to dodge most of the attacks, but there were too many cultivators to handle. Qin Nan had to control the situation, thus it was extremely taxing on his mind. Quick, quick, Master Sima. The 2 hounds held their palms together and prayed while staring at the badge. Although they were clueless about what was happening, Qin Nan had mentioned that they would be allowed to leave once the badge glowed. Therefore, they stared at the badge with wide eyes. If City Lord Zhou and the cultivators knew that Qin Nan was the one controlling the tribulation, they would be in deep trouble. Buzz. Following a soft buzz, the badge emitted a glow. Qin Nan. The 2 hounds were overjoyed, who immediately sprang to their feet and raised their heads. Did it work? Qin Nan let out a relieved sigh as he glanced at the weakened tribulation. He unleashed his divine sense and absorbed the force of the heavens and earth into the golden badge. However, he did not absorb all of the force, but directed the remaining force to the dojo in the city, allowing it to flow above the 3 geniuses. Without the tribulation, the 3 geniuses' cultivations would be extremely weak even if they managed to rank up to the martial sacred realm. Qin Nan would not go too far. As for Cui Hao, since he was Cui Lishu's brother, Qin Nan did not hesitate to accept it. Let's go. Chapter 9:14. A Genius Remembers Love in 1 Second Divided by Small? Shua.net provides you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 9:17. The Hunt Arrives. The chaotic magical Thunder City, at the entrance of the city. Quick update, the website is refreshing with few advertisements. I like this kind of website the most, please give it a good review. For more information, visit www.Qin Nan over here. Sima Kong waved his hand in excitement when he saw Qin Nan's figure. However, he was given a great fright when he saw Qin Nan's aura, who immediately directed streams of magical force into Qin Nan's body. "Did you get it?" Qin Nan asked in a soft voice. "Yes." Is there any place in the world that I can't go?" Sima Kong did not forget to boast as he handed the storage bag to Qin Nan. "Let's head to the middle sector city at once." Qin Nan kept the storage bag without taking a glimpse at it. Everything would only come to an end when they returned to the Dragon Emperor Court. Even if City Lord Zhou and the others knew that Qin Nan had taken the rare treasure, they would not be able to do anything about it. Even the Heaven Saber sect would not be able to do anything about it. The 2 humans, 2 hounds, and 1 mouse swiftly left the place. Meanwhile, phew, the tribulations are gone. Why did they disappear all of a sudden? Are they going to come again? I don't think so. I just saw the 3 geniuses on the dojo attempting their tribulations. They are almost done. However, that Cui Hao is out of luck. The tribulation is gone. Ha ha ha, it's retribution. The rogue cultivators were relieved. Although the incident today was strange, they were not in any danger. City Lord Zhou and the rest of the experts wore dark expressions as they were utterly confused. Why would the tribulations go out of control all of a sudden, causing the entire city to be in an uproar, before calming down in the end? That son of AB*****ch, Cui Lishu could not help but curse. For some reason, it felt like the 4 tribulations were targeting him, as if they were trying to kill him despite the effects of the ancient martial arts, leaving him in a miserable state. Most importantly, his brother Cui Hao's tribulation was gone. This was a huge blow to Cui Hao. "City Lord, some cultivators are causing trouble." At that instant, an elder approached and said in a low voice. City Lord Zhou turned around and saw many rogue cultivators yelling with displeased looks, as if they were arguing with the disciples and elders of the magical Thunder City. After all, many cultivators had traveled a long distance to the magical Thunder City just to get some excitement and have a good gamble. How could they feel comfortable with the current situation? The spiritual Thunder City had to give them an explanation today. "City Lord Zhou, I believe that Qin Nan is the culprit. We should detain Qin Nan and make him pay for what happened." Cui Lishu harumphed coldly. He was feeling extremely unpleasant. It did not matter if Qin Nan was the culprit or not, he would use Qin Nan as a scapegoat to teach Qin Nan a lesson. "You're right." City Lord Zhou's eyes flickered. He was still worrying about how to get his hands on the monarch crystals. "Spread the word, search the entire city for Qin Nan. Detain him immediately." City Lord Zhou uttered the order and proceeded to take control of the situation. Following this, the chaotic magical Thunder City gradually calmed down under City Lord Zhou's comforting words. After all, each of them would be compensated with some monarch crystals. Even though there were only a few monarch crystals, they had witnessed such an exciting battle and witnessed such a strange scene. How could they not be happy to receive some monarch crystals? Time gradually passed, half the period it took an incense to burn later. At the entrance of the City Lord's mansion, many cultivators wore impatient looks on their faces. "City Lord Zhou, what's the meaning of this?" "That's right. It's been half the period it took an incense to burn. Why aren't they paying for it yet? Are you messing with us?" The cultivators complaining were all experts in the martial ancestor realm. "Everyone, calm down." City Lord Zhou waved his hand while cursing in his heart. His eyes flickered when he saw a figure flying toward them rapidly, but he soon frowned. In addition to him, Cui Lishu frowned too. Why was the second elder alone? "City Lord, this is bad. We've searched the entire magical Thunder City, but we couldn't find Qin Nan and his crew. It's highly possible that they have left the City Lord's mansion during the chaos." The second elder said. "Left?" City Lord Zhou and Cui Lishu raised their eyebrows. Something didn't feel right. Normally, even though the tribulation had changed, Qin Nan had won the bet. Why would he leave for no reason? Could it be that Qin Nan had already predicted their plan? While he was puzzled, for some reason, City Master Zhou suddenly had an extremely bad feeling when he saw the impatient expressions of the itinerant cultivators in front of him. Why had the tribulation gone out of control all of a sudden? Why had Qin Nan dared to bet 170,000 monarch crystals and disappeared all of a sudden? Why did everything turn out like this today? Everyone, please wait a little longer. I'll go check something and settle the matter for you. City Lord Zhou took a deep breath and yelled, before he turned around and left the place. He was going to check if the treasure of the magical Thunder City was still there. However, as soon as he stepped out of the place, a figure rushed toward him with a pale face, who turned out to be one of the elders in charge of guarding the treasure. Bad news, bad news. City Lord, something bad has happened. The cultivators gathered at the entrance of the City Lord's mansion were astounded as they glanced at the elder. What was going on now? Seeing this, a thought crossed City Lord Zhou's mind, which caused the uneasy feeling in his heart to grow stronger. He blurted out, "Calm down, what's going on?" The treasure, has been stolen." The elder spoke as if he had used all his strength to utter the words. His words were like a shocking clap of thunder. The rogue cultivators on the scene were greatly astounded. The treasure had been stolen? Could it be that the tribulation had gone out of control because someone had set their eyes on the treasure of the magical Thunder City? The crowd was not stupid, thus they soon came to a conclusion. As the tribulation had gone out of control, everyone's attention had been diverted, thus they would not be paying attention to the magical Thunder City, thus giving the culprit a chance to take advantage of it. It's been stolen? City Lord Zhou was dumbfounded as if he had been struck by lightning. Even though he had expected it to happen, he did not expect it to be real. Qin Nan. It must be Qin Nan. Everyone, listen up. Head to the middle sector city at once. Once you discover the whereabouts of Qin Nan, the peak leader of the human peak of the Dragon Emperor Court, inform me immediately through the badge. Don't stay here any longer. As expected of a City Lord Zhou swiftly reacted and uttered a roar with a tremendous murderous intent. At that instant, he came to a realization. A few days ago, when Qin Nan had visited the magical Thunder City, the force of the tribulation had been depleted. On top of that, Qin Nan had accepted the bet in the Supreme Room, and his sudden departure from the magical Thunder City. Furthermore, during the battle between the tribulations, the plump man beside Qin Nan had not shown up either. It was highly possible that Qin Nan was the one who had caused the commotion in the city, allowing the plump man to steal the treasure. The rogue cultivators, the elders of the magical Thunder City, and even Cui Lishu were astounded. Qin Nan? Qin Nan of the human peak of the Dragon Emperor Court was the culprit? What are you all waiting for? Chase after him at once. City Lord Zhou almost vomited a mouthful of blood when he saw the crowd's reaction. He uttered a raging roar and unleashed the 8th layer martial ancestors cultivation as he sprang into the sky like a beam of light. Chapter 9:15. A genius will remember love in a second divided by little? Here's a great novel for you to read. C_T. Chapter 9:18. Meeting on a narrow path. Meanwhile, in the middle sector city. A love go little say, W. Chu. Access. A formation emitted a glow as the figures of Qin Nan and his crew appeared. Qin Nan did not stop there. He immediately headed toward the teleportation formation of the Dragon Emperor Court. As usual, cultivators, true disciples, and outer court disciples from 2-star forces would stop for a short while in the city before they quickly stepped into another formation and headed to another place. Qin Nan and his crew did not pay any attention to them. "I'm almost there." Qin Nan let out a relieved sigh as he glanced at the palace in front of him, before entering it. Qin Nan? Why are you here?" A surprised voice could be heard. Qin Nan was startled. He raised his head and saw Huadichen standing in the middle of the courtyard. One of his feet was already on the teleportation formation. Behind Huadichen stood a few disciples with outstanding cultivations. Their eyes flickered coldly when they saw Qin Nan. It was obvious that they were not fond of Qin Nan. "I forgot to introduce myself, I'm Huadichen." Before Qin Nan could speak, Huadichen added, "I'm Huajian's master." Qin Nan's heart shuddered hearing this. Previously at the exchange hall, Huajian had represented Huadichen to ask him for the monarch crystals. However, when he took the Tao origin crystal away, Huajian was punished too. "Love go little say, W." Chu Huadichen's words were clearly telling Qin Nan about his relationship with Qin Nan. "Holy crap, Qin Nan, this Huadichen is ranked 3rd in the Dragon Emperor Court, and he's ranked in the top 20 on the monarch ranking. How did you offend him in the Dragon Emperor Court?" Sima Kong transmitted his voice to Qin Nan. This guy would always offend experts wherever he went. Qin Nan did not answer Sima Kong's question. He brought his fists together and said, "So it's Senior Brother Hua, I've heard a lot about you. I've just finished a mission, thus I'm heading back to the Dragon Emperor Court. Please read a book here." As he spoke, his expression remained unchanged as he walked towards the teleportation formation. "I see." Huadichen wore a grin and said, "However, Junior Brother Qin Nan, if you're planning to return to the Dragon Emperor Court, you should do so tomorrow." Following his words, a terrifying aura burst out, which turned out to be the peak martial progenitor realm. On top of that, the inner disciples behind Huadichen wore disdainful grins as their auras of the 8th layer martial progenitor realm, 7th layer martial progenitor realm, and 6th layer martial progenitor realm were fully unleashed. At that instant the entire hall began to tremble vigorously. The 2 hounds and the heavenly fortune mouse behind Qin Nan began to tremble in fear. The reason being that the aura of the beast was too terrifying. "Huadichen, what do you mean by this?" Qin Nan stood in front of the 2 hounds and 1 mouse and blocked the aura with a cold expression. "What do I mean?" The smile on Huadichen's face widened as he said, "Nothing, I'm just in a bad mood today." Bad mood? That was clearly an excuse. He was only trying to intimidate Qin Nan when he saw him. If Qin Nan dared to resist, the peak martial progenitor realm, 8th layer martial progenitor realm, 7th layer martial progenitor realm, and the others would be able to attack him openly. After all, they were not in the Dragon Emperor Court. "Qin Nan, what should we do?" Sima Kong's expression darkened. He did not expect this Huadichen to be so scornful. However, there was nothing he could do since his opponent was too strong, not to mention that the people of the magical Thunder City would be here soon. Qin Nan's heart sank. It seemed like it was not that easy to acquire the treasure. Besides, once the people of the magical Thunder City arrived, Huadichen would most likely not let him use the portal. "Qin Nan, stop right there. Don't you dare run away. Bastard!" At that instant, a series of furious roars and rapid footsteps could be heard coming from the distance. They turned out to be City Lord Zhou, Cui Lishu, the 2nd Elder, the 3rd Elder, and the rest of the experts. The noise attracted the attention of many geniuses of the Middle Sector City. "So someone is trying to kill Junior Brother Qin Nan. Let's see who they are." Huadichen raised his brows and said with great interest. His aura became even more terrifying as the will of monarch arts began to appear in the rift. Obviously, he would not allow Qin Nan to use the portal to head to the Dragon Emperor Court. "Let's go somewhere else." Qin Nan transmitted his voice to Sima Kong without hesitation. Sima Kong swiftly reacted and headed for the exit. Flying and fighting were not allowed in the middle sector city. Trying to leave? I don't think that's a good idea. Junior brother Qin Nan, you should stay and meet them. If anything happens, I'll help you, Hua Dichen said with a smile. A rune appeared on his forehead without any warning. Whoosh! A terrifying force burst out from the rune, which transformed into a giant hand grabbing at Qin Nan's figure. His attack was intangible, as it was able to grab a person's soul. Once it grabbed the target, even a peak expert like the martial ancestor would not be able to escape. The inner disciples standing behind Hua Dichen could not help but laugh mockingly. This Qin Nan was so unlucky to stumble into their young master when he was being hunted. As such, once their young master captured Qin Nan, the group of people would be able to kill Qin Nan. Even if the Dragon Emperor court was infuriated, it would have nothing to do with them. After all, Hua Dichen was trying to help Qin Nan to seek justice. Bang! However, as soon as the illusionary giant hand landed on Qin Nan's hand, a terrifying force appeared and nullified the force. This is, Hua Dichen and the inner disciples were astounded. What was that? Did Qin Nan have some kind of artifact protecting him that allowed him to resist the attack? Luckily, it's attacking my soul. Qin Nan let out a relieved sigh. It was the copper mirror that had blocked the attack. After all, the copper mirror was suppressing his divine sense. If anyone tried to harm him through his divine sense or his soul, the mirror would stop them. In the blink of an eye, Qin Nan and his crew swiftly disappeared from the hall. Crap, they managed to escape. An inner disciple collected his thoughts and was about to make his move. That won't be necessary. I've already alerted him in the middle sector city. If I were to interfere again, that stubborn old man would not show me any mercy. Let's go. Hua Dichen gave the entrance of the hall a thoughtful look before he stepped into the formation without turning his head around. Getting someone else to do the dirty work was only a small trick. There would be plenty of opportunities later. As soon as Qin Nan, Sima Kong, and the others left the hall, the eyes of City Lord Zhou, the second elder, the third elder, Cui Lishu, and the rest of the experts flickered as they unleashed their murderous intent. Great! The heavens were indeed on their side. They did not expect Qin Nan to still be in the Dragon Emperor court after so long. Their chance had arrived. Qin Nan, follow me! Sima Kong shouted in a low voice. With a turn of his body, he entered another street in the middle sector city. There were a total of 8 teleportation portals on the street. Without any hesitation, he chose the middle one and stepped into it. Qin Nan followed him into the teleportation formation. As soon as they left, a series of furious roars could be heard behind them. They're running away. Let's split into 8 groups. Chapter 9:16. Genius 1 second. Remember love divided by go divided by little? SegNet, providing you with interesting novels to read. C_T. Chapter 9:19. Fire Path Mountain Range. Meanwhile, in a city of the Middle Continent, a formation suddenly emitted a glow as the figures of Qin Nan and the others appeared. Love Go Little Say, W. Chu advertisement. Access. Where is this place? Qin Nan glanced at the guards and asked. Wolf Fong City. The guardian god's expression was a little stunned. Thanks. Qin Nan waved his hand and handed 500 monarch crystals to the guards. I've heard of this Wolf Fong City, a 3-starred faction with an average strength. However, a few thousand li away from the city is the Fire Path mountain range. Once we enter the mountain range, even if City Lord Zhou and the others are here, they won't be able to catch up to us. Sima Kong's eyes flickered as he came up with a clear plan. Qin Nan's strength was unparalleled, but when it came to escaping and stealing, he was the successor of the Emperor of Thieves. Let's head to the Fire Path mountain range then. Qin Nan nodded. Sima Kong immediately led the way and flew into the distance. The entire Wolf Fang city was completely calm, and it was even to the extent that the experts within the city weren't alarmed, because they were already used to such occurrences since a long time ago. However, a few hundred breaths later, bang! City Lord Zhou, the second elder, Cui Lishu, and a total of 30 figures appeared from the formation. Their terrifying auras swept the entire city within the blink of an eye. At that instant, even the experts of the Wolf Fang city could not wait any longer and flew out. Do you see 2 people with 2 hounds and 1 mouse? City Lord Zhou snapped at the guards with a sinister look, as if he would start a massacre if he was not satisfied with the answer. I see them, they're heading that way. The guard shuddered as he pointed out the direction. Let's go. City Lord Zhou did not say a word. He turned into a ray of light and soared into the sky. He did not even look at the experts of Wolf Fang City. After a long while, Qin Nan and Sima Kong stopped. In front of them were mountains clustered together. They were completely red, as if they were burning. Even the clouds in the sky were completely red. Although there was no change in the temperature, looking from afar, one could only feel a strange heat spreading. Fire Path mountain range lived up to its reputation. Its city lord Zhou and the others. Qin Nan's left eye emitted a purple glow as he vaguely saw several figures flying toward him from the distance. When the 2 dogs heard this sentence, they shuddered. They quickly put their paws together and began to pray devoutly. He had to escape from this pursuit. How unlucky are we? We can't make it to the Dragon Emperor Court. They have split into 8 groups, but the ones chasing after us are the strongest ones. Sima Kong said with a gloomy face. Following this, the Emperor of Thieves' golden seal appeared on his forehead. Love go little say ku, altering the heavens and earth. All directions are under my control. Sima Kong uttered a groan and waved his hand, emitting a golden glow onto Qin Nan, the 2 hounds and 1 mouse. Following this, a fiery aura was ignited on their bodies, which was similar to the aura of the Fire Path mountain range in the distance. Impressive. Qin Nan's eyes flickered. With this, it would be difficult for the enemy to track them down unless they had some outstanding capabilities. Qin Nan, how strong are you? Sima Kong glanced at Qin Nan and asked. 6th layer martial ancestor, not a problem. Qin Nan said. F***K, you're only a 2nd layer martial ancestor, and you're able to fight a 6th layer cultivator? Sima Kong looked as if he had just seen a ghost. He then smiled bitterly and said, You are simply a freak. Forget it, let's not talk about it. If you have the strength, we can go deep into the Fire Path mountain range, Qin Nan nodded. Sima Kong shared the same thought. Although the successor of the Emperor of Thieves had outstanding capabilities, their opponents were City Lord Zhou, Cui Lishu, and the rest of the 30 cultivators. Thus it was difficult to guarantee that the enemy would not be able to track them down. They could only guarantee their safety by going deeper into the mountain range. The deeper regions of the Fire Path mountain range were filled with danger, thus it would greatly hinder City Lord Zhou and the others from tracking them down. Sigh, such a pity, the mortal appearance-changing technique isn't powerful enough. If only I had the complete version. Sima Kong let out a sigh as he proceeded forward. The mortal appearance-changing technique he had acquired was only an incomplete version, thus its power was limited. It might be useful in places like the Eastern continent, but not now. Otherwise, he could easily change his appearance and evade the enemy's pursuit. After Qin Nan and his crew left, City Lord Zhou and the others arrived at the foot of the Fire Path mountain range. Did you find their auras? City Lord Zhou asked with an expressionless face. City Lord, we haven't found their auras yet. the second elder said with a wry smile. His martial spirit was the dragon roar grass, granting him the ability to track a person's aura. They must have entered the Fire Path mountain range. City Lord Zhou turned around and glanced at the crowd before he uttered a roar. Everyone, use all your tracking techniques. Don't hold anything back. Illusionary Demon. Unleash. Cui Lishu was the first to make his move. A talisman was set aflame, which transformed into 10 demons that charged into the mountain range. Martial Spirit unleashed. Golden Worm. The rest of the elders made their moves. There were ancient insects, talismans, martial spirits, artifacts, etc. Even those with a cultivation of the 8th layer martial progenitor realm would not be able to escape from such an overwhelming number of traps. A moment later, in the mountain range, Qin Nan and his crew moved forward rapidly among the fiery red trees. It was as if their figures had merged with the mountain range, allowing them to pass by some of the martial ancestor realm beasts without attracting any attention. These people are no ordinary people indeed. Qin Nan turned around and saw the strange creatures hiding in the mountain range. For some reason, regardless of where Qin Nan and his crew were going, City Lord Zhou and his crew were able to detect their presence in time. Although they had no idea where Qin Nan and his crew were exactly, they were able to follow closely behind them. After the period it took over 10 incense sticks to burn, Qin Nan and his crew arrived deep inside the mountain range. The beasts here had reached the 6th layer martial ancestor realm. Furthermore, the woods were filled with countless dangers. Even with Qin Nan's left eye of the divine god of battle, his speed was greatly reduced. Sima Kong, there seems to be a forbidden area ahead. We can use it as our hiding spot. Qin Nan's eyes flickered all of a sudden. He had just seen a huge valley a few dozen li away, which was engulfed in flames. However, deep inside the valley was a giant crack that was extremely well hidden. If it weren't for his left eye, he would not have been able to see it. Sure. Sima Kong was overjoyed. He then let out a hollow laugh as a thought crossed his mind, causing him to bite his thumb. Puppet art, from the soil into a human, transform. Over 10 figures made of straw were ignited in front of Sima Kong. Sima Kong immediately dripped a few drops of his blood essence into the figures. The figures soon transformed into the appearances of Qin Nan, the 2 hounds, 1 mouse, and Sima Kong. Even their auras were the same, thus it was difficult to identify them. However, Qin Nan was able to tell that the scarecrows did not possess any strength. They could only serve as bait to lure the cultivators away. Hee, I'll leave them to you. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.